Chapter 1391. He master is wise. In fact, I came to find you tonight not only to perform a formal apprenticeship ceremony, but also to ask for your help. Gong Xiaoxi was not offended by Xiao Chen's rebuke at all. He grinned and insisted on kneeling on the ground, looking at Xiao Chun with a face full of longing. Stand up first. How will it look if others see this? Don't you want me to treat your father's illness? I promise you, there's no need to kneel. Xiao Chun waved his hand and motioned for Gong Xiaoxi to stand up. Xiao Chun felt that Gong Xiaoxi was making a mountain out of a molehill. The apprenticeship ceremony was just a formality. Why did it have to be so grand? But no matter what he said, Gong Xiaoxi kept kneeling and refused to get up. Xiao Chun had no choice but to pick up the cup in his hand and drink a few mouthfuls of tea, taking it as accepting him as a disciple. Thank you, exalted master, but I still can't get up, because I want to ask for your help with another matter. My father also wants to be apprenticed to you. If you agree, then I will be his senior brother from now on. Gong Xiaoxi said seriously as soon as Xiao Chun finished his tea. Puffed. Xiao Chun didn't even have time to swallow the tea in his mouth. When he heard this, he sprayed it all over Gong Xiaoxi's face. However, Xiao Chun had forgotten to apologize. At this time, he was looking at this strange father and son pair in disbelief. He didn't know what to say at all. Weren't these two people's imaginations 2F** king big? Father and son actually want to be senior brother and junior brother? Exalted master, don't worry. I won't deny him as my father. It's just that in front of you, we will be senior brother and junior brother. In front of outsiders, we will still be father and son. There is no difference. Gong Xiaoxi seemed to have guessed Xiao Chen's doubts, and immediately added. Xiao Chen opened his mouth, but still couldn't say anything. He just turned to look at Gong Ruidong, who was sitting on the side with a smile, and then looked down at Gong Xiaoxi, whose expression didn't change at all. He felt as if he had been struck by lightning from head to toe, no, hundreds of times. Gong Xiaoxi thought that Xiao Chen was wondering why Gong Ruidong didn't kneel to him, and quickly continued to explain. Exalted master, because my father is injured, it's not very convenient for him to walk. This time, I will kneel to you on his behalf. At this moment, the tea on Gong Xiaoxi's face was still dripping down, dripping onto the ground. There were still a few yellowish-brown tea leaves hanging near his nostrils, but he didn't seem to feel it at all. He continued to look at Xiao Chun with reverence, his body not moving at all. It seemed that as long as Xiao Chun didn't agree, he would kneel and not get up. Hong Zhu, who was sitting on the side, also had a shocked expression. He thought to himself, do the sects in the cultivation world have any lower limits? One is a father, the other is a son. Now not only are they going to enter the same sect, the father and son have to address each other as senior brother and junior brother. The strangest thing is that the two of them don't think there's a problem. Instead, they both look as if it's only natural. This is too strange. Ahem. After a long silence, Xiao Chen finally came back to his senses. He cleared his throat uncomfortably and looked at Gong Xiaoxi with a strange expression. I say the cultivation world is really messed up. Although I don't mind taking in another disciple, I think the two of you, father and son, should reconsider it carefully. After all, the son is the senior brother, and the father is the junior brother. This kind of thing is strange no matter how I hear it. If this gets out, you will definitely become a laughingstock. Don't worry, master. Gong Xiaoxi patted his chest loudly and said righteously. We will definitely know what we are doing. We won't say it casually and lose face for Master Immortal. Don't worry, exalted Immortal Xiao. My son and I are still quite tight-lipped. Tonight's matter is only known to the few of us here. It will definitely not spread. Gong Ruidong also chimed in. Then, alright. Xiao Chen saw that this strange father and son pair would not give up until he agreed. He could only nod helplessly. In any case, to me, there's no difference between 1 and 2 disciples. If I'm free, I will naturally give you some pointers. However, if I go out to travel and gain experience, the two of you will cultivate and comprehend on your own. Of course. Gong Xiaoxi immediately got up and calmly wiped away the water stains and tea leaves on his face. He smiled and echoed. Exalted Immortal Master has told me this before. On the way here just now, I specially told my father about it. He has already remembered it. Seeing that Xiao Chun had finally agreed, Gong Ruidong could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He said with some embarrassment, "Master, I'm really sorry about what happened this morning. I was blinded by greed and failed to recognize Mount Tai. I said such disrespectful words. Please forgive me, Master. Please don't stoop to my level." "That's right. Junior brother is young and ignorant." He spoke without thinking. "I hope Master won't blame him." Gong Xiaoxi quickly echoed. "It's okay. I'm used to it anyway." Xiao Chun waved his hand speechlessly. "I'm not such a narrow-minded person. You don't have to take it to heart. Thank you for your understanding, Master. Thank you for speaking up for father, senior brother." Gong Ruidong saw that Xiao Chun really did not mind. He was full of joy and thanked him. He then asked with a face full of anticipation, "That disciple would like to be bold and ask Master, what is your current strength? Could it be the legendary Original Soul Realm?" "Original Soul Realm? What's so great about that? Legendary? You're too easily satisfied." Xiao Chun curled his lips in disdain and played with the cup of tea that had been emptied. Gong Ruidong and Gong Xiaoxi looked at each other. Did they hear wrongly? Exalted Immortal Xiao actually felt that Original Soul Realm was not powerful enough? Seeing that the two of them were in a daze, Xiao Chun put down the teacup in his hand. He pinched his chin and asked calmly, "Speaking of which, since your Burning Sky faction is so powerful in Lucian Prefecture, can you find a Original Soul Realm cultivator for me? It just so happens that I have nothing to do now. I can beat up this type of cultivator to try it out." Hearing Xiao Chun's words, Gong Ruidong's mouth opened wide. He was so shocked that he could not say anything. Master could even beat up a cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul stage? Could it be that he had already reached the level of the mysterious ascending stage that he had only seen in the ancient books? That must be it. Master could crippling Tai Chi with one move. Such a powerful strength could not be achieved by just the Original Soul Realm cultivator. He must have already reached the profound ascension stage. Chapter 1392. Thinking of this, Gong Ruidong felt even more respect for Xiao Chun. He had already forgotten to answer his Lord Master's question. He could not help but let his imagination run wild. If he could receive his guidance in the future, then maybe in his lifetime, he could also reach the unattainable peak of the nascent soul stage, right? Or even try to break through to the profound ascension stage. Heavens, just thinking about it makes me feel excited. Seeing that his father was sitting there in a daze without replying, Gong Xiaoxi did not dare to be slow and immediately said, "Exalted Master, as far as I know, the Tranquil Forest sect really has an original infant stage cultivator at the original infant stage." Although Gong Xiaoxi was shocked to hear Immortal Zhao's words, he had been with Immortal Xiao for quite some time now. He had personally witnessed his Immortal Master's various magical techniques, so his mental fortitude had become much stronger. That was why he was able to react so quickly. Oh, then why did sect leader Duan say that Ing Tai Chi was the highest level immortal cultivator in the Tranquil Forest sect? I remember that fellow was only at original infant stage level 2 or 3. Xiao Chun frowned and asked in surprise. "It's like this. That original infant stage cultivator is currently traveling around the immortal cultivation world and has not returned to the Tranquil Forest sect for a long time." Gong Xiaoxi quickly explained, "If that's the case, looks like when he was around, you guys suffered a lot from him?" Xiao Chun looked at Gong Xiaoxi, who was able to answer fluently, and asked with a smile. If not for the fact that he knew this fellow very well, Gong Xiaoxi would not be able to say anything so casually. "Yes, when that old thing was around, we were suppressed by the Tranquil Forest sect." Gong Xiaoxi nodded his head in agreement. Ever since he left, the Burning Sky faction became the #1 faction in Lucian Prefecture. It was really glorious then. But it's a pity that my junior accidentally went berserk and was replaced by the Tranquil Forest sect. Cough cough. Gong Ruidong's face turned red, and he hurriedly pretended to clear his throat. He glared at Gong Xiaoxi and signaled him to stop talking nonsense. "Oh yes, thanks to you, Master, we have returned to the throne of #1. Gong Xiaoxi saw the opportunity and immediately changed the topic to flatter Xiao Chun. Then he added, "By the way, I forgot to tell you just now. That person at the peak of the original infant stage is the master of Old Man, in whom you crippled last time." "That's great. I'm guessing that old Devil Ing has suffered a setback in my hands. So he's planning to get his master back once he returns." Xiao Chun immediately showed an overjoyed look. He nodded with satisfaction and said, "When the time comes, I will let him perform a trapeze or other tricks to open your eyes." Ever since he came to the world of cultivation, Xiao Chun had always wanted to find an expert of the same level to compete with. He wanted to feel the difference between his cultivation and that of ordinary cultivators. Since he couldn't find an expert of the profound ascension stage, then a peak of the nascent soul stage would barely suffice. "I didn't expect Master to really be able to make people go to heaven. I will wait and see then." Gong Ruidong suddenly recalled what Xiao Chun said to him in the morning and could not help but exclaim. If it was in the past, Gong Ruidong would definitely think that Xiao Chun was taking advantage of the fact that there was no one at the peak of the original infant stage to fight with him. Hence he was bragging, but now that he saw his master's eager look, Gong Ruidong had no doubt that he could suppress someone at the peak of the original infant stage. "That exalted master, we still don't know when Old Man Ying's master will return. Why don't you check on my father's injuries first? Let's see how to treat him." Although Gong Xiaoxi wanted to see the tranquil forest sect lose face, his first concern was how to treat his father's injuries. "All right, let me check his pulse first." Xiao Chun nodded his head and walked to Gong Ruidong's side. He stretched out his finger to check his pulse. After feeling for a while, he found that there were indeed a few stagnant meridians in his body. The qi in his dantian was also rather chaotic. His pulse was a little depressed. It should be because he had been injured for too long, that it had become a serious illness. "Master, my injuries have been like this for many years. I've eaten many treasures in between, but there was no effect at all. Do you think there's any hope of curing it?" Gong Ruidong asked anxiously, as he looked at Xiao Chun's serious face and did not speak. Xiao Chun came back to his senses and nodded his head. It shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. Let me think about it for a night. Tomorrow, when I come up with a suitable plan, I will tell you the detailed steps." Really? Really? My injuries can be cured?" Gong Ruidong was stunned on the spot. His eyes gradually turned red, and his voice trembled as he asked. How many years had it been? He had eaten countless medicines and tried countless methods. Even Gong Ruidong himself was on the verge of despair. Who would have thought that a miracle would suddenly fall from the sky today? Someone said that his injuries could be cured. At this moment, Gong Ruidong felt as if he was in a dream. The feeling was too surreal. "Why? You don't believe that I can cure you?" Xiao Chun smiled faintly and asked in return. I absolutely believe." Gong Xiaoxi was afraid that Gong Ruidong would say something that he should not say. He quickly replied, "Then we will go back first and wait for the good news from Master. We won't disturb your rest and Master's wife." Yes. Let's go back first." "Let's go back first." Gong Ruidong immediately woke up. He nodded his head and called for Gong Xiaoxi to carry him. Gong Xiaoxi ran over in 2 or 3 steps and held Gong Ruidong's hand. He said emotionally, "Father, now that Master said that your illness can be cured, I will carry you back first and come to find Master tomorrow morning." Puffed. Xiao Chun choked again. This Gong Xiaoxi was really a clown. If this sentence was heard by people who did not know the inside story, they would definitely be stunned. However, it could be seen that although Gong Ruidong and Gong Xiaoxi were father and son, their personalities were very different. Gong Ruidong was upright and proud, but somewhat old-fashioned and stubborn. Gong Xiaoxi, on the other hand, was tactful and sophisticated. He was good at dealing with all kinds of situations, and would think of ways to achieve things that were beneficial to him. He did not know whether the father and son, whose personalities were completely different, would quarrel with each other when they communicated. However, Xiao Chun could also see that the two had a very good relationship. Gong Xiaoxi had thought of so many ways to cure his father's injuries. He had even made a scene to make Xiao Chun recognize him as his master. Don't come too early. We are going to sleep in. Hongzhu hurriedly shouted as he watched Gong Xiaoxi gradually leave with Gong Ruidong on his back. Chapter 1393. Tonight, I might even have to do some shameful things with Xiao Chun. Hongzhu did not want to be disturbed by Gong Xiaoxi again. Although her imagination was very beautiful, unfortunately, Hongzhu still did not get what she wanted. That night, other than obediently dual cultivating with her, Xiao Chun did not even speak more than a few words to her, let alone perform any passionate actions. This caused Hongzhu to feel extremely stifled, and she inwardly cursed the blockhead countless times. An uneventful night passed, and the sky outside the window had just begun to brighten when Xiao Chun immediately stopped dual cultivating. After putting on his clothes, he walked to the washroom with a contemplative expression on his face to wash up, causing Hongzhu, who had just woken up, to be completely baffled, not knowing what was going on. In truth, Xiao Chun did have his own doubts, because he had recently discovered that Hongzhu's strength had been increasing more and more slowly, and it had become extremely difficult for her to break through to the next realm. He could not help but be greatly puzzled by this situation. After repeatedly thinking about the process of him dual cultivating with the other women, Xiao Chun did not discover anything different. So why was Hongzhu's progress so slow? What exactly was the problem? Elder Heaven Ancestor, why is Hongzhu's progress so slow? Did you notice anything amiss? Unable to figure out the reason, no matter how he thought about it, Xiao Chun asked Elder Heaven Ancestor in his mind while washing his face. After a moment of silence, Elder Heaven Ancestor slowly opened his mouth and said, I've also thought about this problem. Do you remember when you were cultivating, you once refined medicinal herbs to temper your body? I remember. It also cost me a lot of money, causing me to look for ways to earn money everywhere. And I even went to help people look for dogs. Xiao Chun nodded. This past event had left a very deep impression on him. Hongzhu is also cultivating now, but she has not taken medicinal herbs like you. I suspect that this is the reason why her cultivation progress is so slow. The Elder Heaven Ancestor said calmly, Go back and make her a dose of the medicine according to the original prescription. She should be able to level up quickly. So that's how it is. I thought that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, in the immortal cultivation world, was so abundant that there was no need to drink medicine. Xiao Chun suddenly realized and sighed with emotion. No matter how good the spiritual energy is, it's useless if I can't absorb it into my body. Elder Heaven Ancestor scoffed at Xiao Chun's idea. Otherwise, why are there so many unarmed ordinary people in the cultivation world? Everyone here should be an expert cultivator. Alright, I was wrong. Xiao Chun touched his nose awkwardly and changed the topic. Then how do we treat Gong Ruidong's injury? Can I use my Yuan Qi to help him break through the blockages in his meridians? No. The Elder Heaven Ancestor flatly rejected Xiao Chun's idea and said in a deep voice, He has been paralyzed for too long. If you rashly pour pure Yuan Qi into his body, it is very likely that the blockages in his meridians will be damaged, and he will suffer from Qigong deviation again, which will lead to his death. Then can we give him some natural treasures first, with the help of the medicinal efficacy to open up his meridians, and then give him the right medicine? Xiao Chun suddenly thought of the natural treasures he had collected in the inner martial world. He had kept the package with him, and had not touched it until now. Maybe it could be used this time, and Gong Ruidong and the others would not have to spend spiritual crystals to buy it. No, we can't directly give him a strong medicine in his body. The Elder Heaven Ancestor rejected Xiao Chun's suggestion again, and explained simply, The natural treasures you brought are too strong and not suitable for him. If we force him to use them, it will cause the same result as when you pour primordial qi into him. This won't work, and that won't work. Will his wounds be incurable? Xiao Chun was dazed. Last night, he had patted his chest and promised that he would ask the Elder Heaven Ancestor to come and pick up the plan today. But now he realized that none of the approaches worked. That won't happen. The Elder Heaven Ancestor's words immediately reassured Xiao Chun. How about this? I'll write another prescription for you. You ask them to bring the herbs here. Then, you will brew the medicine the way you did before. When it is done, give the soup to Hongzhu, and leave the dregs to Gong Ruidong. Ah, well, he has spent a lot of spiritual crystals, only to get some dregs in the end. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Xiao Chun was a bit hesitant about the elder heaven ancestor's suggestion. Wasn't giving the dregs to Jean Beibei's grandfather what he had done in the past? But at that time, he had bought the medicine. Golden Fur Lion King had only spent money to buy the dregs. Now that he had asked Gong Xiaoxi to spend spiritual crystals to buy medicine, he had ended up giving him a pile of dregs. Xiao Chun felt that he had wronged Gong Xiaoxi and his son. Although the Burning Sky faction was the #1 faction in the Lucian prefecture, they had only recently eased up a little. In the past, they had been suppressed by the secluded forest sect too much. Xiao Chun could not bear to let them spend this money for nothing. That's fine too. If you have a better treatment method, you can go ahead and give it a try. Anyway, I have already told you the method. As for whether you want to do it or not, that's your decision, the elder heaven ancestor said calmly. All right then. Anyway, it's not my first time doing this. Give me the prescription. I will ask Gong Xiaoxi to buy the medicine. Xiao Chun shook his head helplessly and replied with a bitter smile. The elder heaven ancestor did not speak again. After a while, a list of medicinal ingredients appeared in Xiao Chun's mind. He quickly put down the towel in his hand and quickly returned to his room. He picked up a pen and paper and wrote down all the medicinal ingredients he needed. After he finished writing, Xiao Chun ordered his servants to find Gong Xiaoxi. When Gong Xiaoxi came over, his face was full of excitement. When he thought that his father's injury could be cured, his footsteps became much lighter. Xiao Chun did not waste any more words with him. He immediately passed the prescription to him and instructed him to buy all the ingredients on the list according to the prescription and then send them to him. Gong Xiaoxi respectfully received the prescription. Then, he lowered his head and glanced at the medicinal ingredients on the list. His expression changed slightly. He saw that all of the ingredients written on the list were priceless treasures and elixirs of the highest grade. Fortunately, there were not any that were particularly rare. As long as one had spiritual crystals, they could basically be bought. Gong Xiaoxi only felt a slight pain in his heart. Then he immediately made a decision. In order to cure his father's illness, he had to buy the most expensive medicinal ingredients. After bidding farewell to Xiao Chun, Gong Xiaoxi immediately went to the Burning Sky faction's warehouse to transfer a large amount of spiritual crystals. Then, he left the faction and went straight to the various big medicine shops in the Lucian prefecture. In his eagerness to save his father, Gong Xiaoxi used the fastest speed he had ever used in his life. After about an hour, Gong Xiaoxi returned to the Burning Sky faction with bags of medicinal ingredients. He solemnly handed the items over to Xiao Chun. Chapter 1394. Gong Xiaoxi had originally wanted to stay and watch how Xiao Chun refined the medicine, but before even a quarter of an hour had passed, he was directly thrown out by Xiao Chun. After all, when Xiao Chun finished brewing the medicine, the authentic medicinal soup would be given to Hongzhu, while Gong Ruidong would only be drinking the dregs of the medicine. Therefore, he naturally could not let Gong Xiaoxi know the truth. After patiently simmering for several hours, Xiao Chun finally finished brewing all the medicinal ingredients. Xiao Chun fiddled around in the secret chamber for a long time, before he took out a bowl of medicinal soup with a lighter color, and ordered the servant standing outside to bring it to Gong Xiaoxi as soon as possible. He told the servant to bring it to Gong Ruidong immediately, and then circulate his mental cultivation method to spread the medicinal efficacy. After the servant left, Xiao Chun returned to the secret room, took out another bowl of dark-colored medicinal soup, and stealthily slipped into Hongzhu's room. Xiao Chong, husband, why do you smell like medicinal herbs? Seeing Xiao Chun enter the room with a bowl of jet-black medicinal soup, Hongzhu, who was looking at himself in the mirror, wrinkled his nose and asked in surprise, "What are you holding in your hand? You're not planning to drug this big sister, and then take the opportunity to do that to me, are you?" "Ahem, I just realized that you always like to think of good things," Xiao Chun teased with a smile, then carefully placed the steaming bowl on the table, and urged Hongju. I just brewed this medicinal soup. It can help you with your daily cultivation. Drink it while it's still hot. As this was the first time he had brewed the medicinal ingredients, it had been brewed relatively early, and he still had to help Gong Ruidong boil the dregs of the medicine after it was done. Xiao Chun had deliberately injected a trace of yuan qi into the medicinal soup when it came out of the furnace, thus preserving the temperature of the medicinal soup. Even now it was still steaming hot. What kind of medicine is this? Hongju curiously stood up and walked over. He approached the medicinal soup and lightly sniffed it, then muttered in a strange tone. What ingredients did you put in this soup? Why can't I smell it? Since the Hong family's medicinal herb business was very large, Hongju had grown up surrounded by piles of medicinal herbs. However, even after sniffing and sniffing at the bowl, she still found it difficult to distinguish which medicinal herbs and natural treasures were in the bowl. These are all medicinal herbs of the immortal cultivation world. How could you possibly smell them? Xiao Chun looked at Hongju's slightly knitted eyebrows and said with a smile, Really? Hongju cast a suspicious glance at Xiao Chun, then asked with a grin, Why do you want me to drink medicine all of a sudden? Are you trying to do something to me? Don't always think about these useless things. This is to help you cultivate. Didn't I drink medicine often when I was cultivating? Don't you remember that you always go to Little Hong's pharmacy to buy medicinal herbs? Xiao Chun shrugged his shoulders and urged, All right, stop wasting time. Drink the medicine quickly, and circulate your mental cultivation method to absorb the medicine. Exercise for another 2 to 4 hours, and you'll see the effect. All right, I'll believe you this time. Seeing that Xiao Chun would not take the bait no matter what, Hongju could only secretly purse her lips and quietly pick up the bowl on the table. Just as she brought the medicinal soup to her mouth, Hongju felt a scorching heat on her delicate upper lip. She could not help but pout and complain. Hiss, it's so hot. Husband Xiao Chun, come and help me blow it. Blow it, cough cough. You're already a grown man, yet you're still afraid of heat? You're a cultivator. Hearing Hongju's slightly ambiguous words, Xiao Chun helplessly shook his head. Can't cultivators be afraid of heat? I want you to help me blow it. Hongju pouted and straightforwardly handed the bowl of medicine to Xiao Chun. You win. Xiao Chun felt a headache coming on as he looked at the spoiled Hongju. He had no choice but to gently blow a few breaths at the medicinal soup in the bowl. Hee, this is how big sister's obedient little brother should be. Hongju smiled coquettishly in satisfaction, and put away the bowl of medicine. She tested the temperature of the medicinal soup again, and felt that it was about right before slowly drinking it. After patiently waiting for Hongju to finish drinking the medicine, Xiao Chun took the bowl and stood up saying, It's done. If there's nothing else, go and cultivate. This bowl of medicinal soup cost me a lot of spirit crystals, so don't waste these precious herbs. Ugh, it's so bitter. Husband Xiao Chun, big sister wants to eat candy. Or maybe something sweet is fine too. Hongju frowned and stuck out his tongue, while fanning his mouth with his palm, trying to get rid of the bitter taste in his mouth. Xiao Chun poked Hongju's forehead and snappily said, Candy my ass. Where am I supposed to find something sweet in such a short time? Ugh. Before he could finish his sentence, Xiao Chun saw Hongju pouncing towards him and giving him a French kiss. Her playful little tongue was still stirring in Xiao Chun's mouth. The two kissed passionately for a while before Hongju happily left Xiao Chun's lips and happily said, Ha ha ha, my mouth is finally not bitter anymore. Thank you, husband Xiao Chun. Big sister is going to cultivate now. Xiao Chun was stunned for a long time, before he finally realized that he had been taken advantage of. Looking at Hongju, who was wholeheartedly cultivating, Xiao Chun sighed. He was truly at his wits' end. He knew that this little she-devil had always wanted to have an intimate relationship with him that was beyond friendship. However, he was afraid of being teased, so he had directly rejected her. He did not expect that she would actually come up with such a despicable trick this time. He was completely caught off guard and fell for it. Xiao Chun touched his fragrant lips and shook his head with a smile. It must be said, the taste of this hot kiss was really not bad. After tidying up the medicinal bowl, Xiaochen originally planned to go over to Gong Ruidong's side to take a look. However, after thinking about it, he decided to stay behind and stand guard for Hongzhu. No matter what, Gong Ruidong was someone who had experience in cultivation, so she naturally knew what to do after drinking the medicinal soup. However, Hongzhu had just started cultivating, and drinking a medicinal soup to aid in his cultivation was the first time he had done so. Thus, Xiaochen felt that it would be better for him to take care of Hongzhu. Exalted Immortal Xiao, my father's lower body is starting to move. Your prescription is really effective. What should I do next? Seeing that Hongzhu had gradually entered a state of cultivation, Xiaochen felt a little relieved. However, he suddenly heard Gong Xiaoxi's loud shout coming from outside the door. Startled, Xiaochen first turned to look at Hongzhu. After discovering that she was not affected at all, and was still immersed in her cultivation, he finally relaxed. He opened the door with a gloomy expression and walked out, making a shushing gesture to the beaming Gong Xiaoxi. What are you yelling about? Do you even know how to speak properly? Xiaochen glared at Gong Xiaoxi and said in a low voice with a sullen expression, Your father's lower body is starting to move. What does that have to do with me? Running over here and yelling like a ghost for no reason. Aren't you afraid of disturbing others? Do you believe that I won't cut off your tongue and feed it to the dogs right now? Chapter 1395. Xiaochen was speechless at Gong Xiaoxi. This guy was really too careless with his words. What did he mean by moving his lower body? How could he say such ambiguous words in broad daylight? What an idiot. I'm sorry, Immortal Xiao. My father is my junior brother, your disciple. Just now, when he drank the medicine you prescribed, he felt a tingling pain in his lower body, and the soles of his feet were a little itchy. You should know that his legs and feet have not felt for many years. At this moment, he is very happy, so he specially asked me to come over to tell you. Gong Xiaoxi touched his nose embarrassedly and smiled. He thought that Xiaochen had forgotten that his father was his junior brother. At this time, Gong Xiaoxi was in a very good mood. Even if Xiaochen scolded him harshly, he would not mind. Oh, that means the medicine is effective. Xiaochen nodded patiently and asked, Is he cultivating now? Could it be that he was too excited after feeling it that he even forgot about cultivating? No. Gong Xiaoxi quickly shook his head and explained. He is now in the stage of adjusting his breath. Before cultivating, he asked me to report to you first and share this joy. Gong Xiaoxi was so excited that his voice became louder and louder. Before Xiaochen could stop him, he asked loudly, By the way, Immortal Master, when will my junior brother drink the medicine for the second time? You're so noisy, can't you speak softly? Xiaochen kicked Gong Xiaoxi angrily and kicked him away from the room. Then he walked over and said slightly impatiently, Let him continue drinking it tomorrow. I think it won't be long before he completely recovers. In the future, don't bother me with this kind of small matter. Look at you. You're so surprised and inexperienced. Looking at the ecstatic Gong Xiaoxi, Xiaochen said, What's there to be proud of? If it weren't for the fact that your father's meridians are too weak, I would be able to cure him in a few breaths of time. Why would I need to drag it out for so long? Yes. Although those medicinal ingredients are a little expensive, as long as they can cure my father's injuries, no matter how many spirit crystals we spend, the Burning Sky sect will not hesitate. Gong Xiaoxi crawled up and said confidently. Then he rubbed the footprint on his, but that was kicked by Xiaochen. Only now did Gong Xiaoxi realize that he had been a little too rash. His exalted immortal master might be resting, but he had barged in and disturbed him. His exalted immortal master would definitely be angry. After going back last night, Gong Ruidong had already reminded him about this matter. But he was too excited just now, so Gong Xiaoxi forgot about it. Alright. Do you have anything else? If there's nothing else, hurry back and protect your father and junior brother. Now your master's wife is cultivating in her room, and she's at the critical moment of a breakthrough, so I have to watch over her. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Xiaochen couldn't be bothered to talk with Gong Xiaoxi any longer, and directly asked him to leave. Then he turned around and walked back to his room. So it's master's wife who's cultivating. Gong Xiaoxu was shocked. Only now did he understand why his exalted immortal master had such a bad attitude towards him. Realizing that he had spoken a little too loudly, Gong Xiaoxi immediately covered his mouth and didn't dare to say anything else. He tiptoed out of the courtyard where Xiao Chen lived, and also shooed away the disciples and guards who were guarding outside, so that they wouldn't cause trouble for Xiao Chen. In fact, Gong Xiaoxi was thinking too much. If those disciples didn't receive an order to summon them, they absolutely wouldn't dare to rashly enter. Only he, who held a high position in the Burning Sky sect, would dare to barge into someone else's inner courtyard. Xiao Chen didn't pay attention to Gong Xiaoxi's little tricks, and directly walked into the room. He found that Hong Zhu had already finished cultivating, and was in the process of adjusting his breathing. His body was emitting the fluctuations of a third-level foundation establishment stage cultivator. Strange, this breakthrough speed still seems a little slow. Xiao Chen rubbed his chin, and asked the Elder Heaven Ancestor in his heart. Elder Heaven Ancestor, what's going on? Hong Zhu's level still can't be raised. This is still called not being able to be raised? He only drank a bowl of medicinal soup, and he has already advanced from the first level of foundation establishment stage to the third level. That's 2 whole levels. Don't be too greedy. The Elder Heaven Ancestor replied in a bad mood. I just feel that his level is still very low. If there's a battle, he won't be able to help. Xiao Chen awkwardly scratched his head. Think about it. When you first advanced, you drank 5 days of medicinal soup, and still couldn't break through 1 level. Her current situation is already considered not bad, the Elder Heaven Ancestor said indifferently. Moreover, now that you are worshipped by the faction, and you don't have to spend your own money to buy medicinal herbs, you should be satisfied. Alright, although it's only 2 levels, it's still better than nothing. Xiao Chen sighed. In any case, there will be medicinal herbs that can be used in the next few days. Let's just slowly advance like this. At least it's much better than before, when I couldn't even advance 1 level. The reason why Xiao Chen wasn't so anxious was because Duan Suqing had already explained to him that the entire Lucian prefecture was relatively large. Moreover, most of the areas were forests and wastelands, and from time to time, ferocious beasts roamed about. Although there were many disciples in the Burning Sky faction, to spread the news to find the whereabouts of Cheng Minjing and the other women, it still needed to be done step by step, like a minesweeper. Not to mention that it was very difficult to find those forests and wastelands. Some of the remote towns that were scattered behind the dense forests needed to spend a few days, and only after a long and arduous journey could they reach the place safely. After those disciples arrived and set up camp, and then asked the local residents, or looked for clues, it would take a certain amount of time before they could send back the confirmed news. According to the instructions of Xiao Chen, the Burning Sky faction would send disciples out to search for people every day. At present, there were already some reports from the nearby investigations, but the situation was not very optimistic. Basically, there were no traces of any strangers entering the territory. Although Xiao Chen didn't say anything, Duan Suqing felt very embarrassed. He had made a guarantee, but in the end, it didn't have any effect, so he could only work hard to send the disciples to further places. Xiao Chen also knew that this was a hard work, and it would definitely take more time to search with his own divine sense. Therefore, he could only choose to stay in the faction, refining medicine for Hong Zhu to drink every day, and using dual cultivation to help her gradually improve her strength. On the other hand, he continued to use medicinal dregs to treat Gong Ruidong, and patiently waited for the news of Cheng Minjing and the other women. At the same time, in the northwest of the cultivation world, in a desolate and boundless desert, there were 2 figures who were moving with difficulty against the scorching sun. Chapter 1396. Looking carefully, the person walking in front was an old man with an evil face, and the figure that fell not far behind him was a delicate and slender woman, whose whole face was wrapped in a silk scarf, revealing only a pair of limpid eyes. Hey, are you going in the wrong direction? We've been walking for so long. Why haven't we seen a single person? There's not even a town around here, let alone a living person. I'm dying of thirst. The woman wrapped in a silk scarf walked forward with heavy steps and shouted angrily at the old man in front of her. Obviously, she had a lot of resentment against him. Miss Chung, I don't know. The old man in front heard the scolding and responded helplessly. I've never been to this place. You see, it's all desert as far as the eye can see. I can't tell whether we've gone the wrong way or not. Let's go on for a while. I guess there will be a town not far ahead. At this time, the old man also collapsed with a bitter face, thinking, it's 2F** king deceitful. I don't know what's wrong with that shit portal. Not only did it send me to this inexplicable place, but it also sent a woman to torture me. If I had known this, I wouldn't have come in. Hearing that, the woman pulled off her veil, revealing an exquisite and beautiful face. Surprisingly, it was Miss Chung Minjing, whom Xiao Chen had been searching for a long time. Her pretty face was slightly cold, and she said coldly, Shishan Giant Bull, didn't you swear that you have been to the world of cultivation when we were at the open heaven gate? Why are you confused now? Is it because you're old and your memory is bad? Are you suffering from dementia? I'm wrong, Miss Chung. I did come to the world of cultivation before, but at that time, I was directly transmitted to the edge of a small town. I've never been to the desert at all. Shishan Giant Bull wiped his sweat and couldn't help complaining. Shishan Giant Bull racked his brains these days, but he couldn't understand why he was transmitted to the desert, and why he came with Chung Minjing. This was not scientific. Humph. Anyway, I've never been here before. You can say whatever you want. With a sullen face, Chung Minjing shouted angrily, look, not only can we not find Xiao Chen, but we are also lost in the desert. Tell me the truth. Did you deliberately take a detour to find a place to sell me? Miss Chung, have you ever seen people selling people in the desert? Besides, I don't even know the way, so why would I take a detour to fool you? Shishan Giant Ox was about to cry. It said from the bottom of its heart, I really want to find a small town and rest as soon as possible. At this time, Shishan Giant Ox's heart was about to collapse. Originally, it had its own plan before entering the world of cultivation. After entering the world of cultivation, it would first lead the whole ghost cultivation sect to advance and retreat together with Xiao Chun, and then find a chance to quietly inquire about the location of the evil cultivation sect in the world of cultivation. After finding a suitable sect, it would secretly lead its disciples to seek refuge with Xiao Chun behind his back. It would also feel like returning to its ancestral home. It didn't expect that after entering the transmission gate, it would come to such a remote place. Except for Chung Minjing, there was no one else around. In fact, Shishan Giant Ox really didn't want to take Chung Minjing everywhere. After all, the world of cultivation was full of danger, and there were too many terrible things. Chung Minjing, who was only at the peak of the venerable realm, was simply a burden. Once they encountered any danger, this little girl would definitely not be able to help them, and it was very likely that she would drag them down. But after thinking about it carefully, Shishan Giant Bull didn't dare to not bring Chung Minjing along with him. If he were to carelessly leave this young miss in this dangerous place, she might be killed or crippled by other people or wild beasts. If he were to meet Xiao Chen later, he would definitely vent his anger on him. Shishan Giant Ox struggled in its heart several times, and finally chose to accept the situation helplessly. First, he would take Chung Minjing to find a place to stay, and then he could only take one step at a time. I don't care so much anyway, it's your fault. Chung Minjing waved her little fist and shouted fiercely, I don't want to live in the wilderness tonight. If you can't find a town to stay in before the sun goes down, I'll ask Xiao Chen to beat you up. After saying that, Chung Minjing subconsciously raised her head, wanting to see where the sun was and whether it was about to go down. Inadvertently, she glimpsed something that was not the same as the desert from the corner of her eye. Ah, it's easy for you to say, where can I find? Shishan Giant Ox said with a sad face, but halfway through its words, it was suddenly interrupted by Chung Minjing. Look over there. Hearing Chung Minjing's surprised and happy voice, Shishan Giant Ox looked back and found that she was pointing excitedly in a direction in front of the left, so it also looked over there. Ha! What's that? With this glance, Shishan Giant Ox also noticed something strange and blurted out in surprise. Shishan Giant Ox rubbed its eyes and looked in that direction again. It saw an oasis in front of the left of the two of them, and if it looked carefully, it could see many wooden houses scattered on the ground. It looked like a village. That seems to be a small town. Cheng Minjing looked for a long time and finally made a judgment. She shouted excitedly, let's go and see. Great, I finally don't have to sleep on the sand tonight. Cheng Minjing cheered and licked her dry lips. She couldn't wait to run in the direction of the small town. But just as she ran to the side of Shishan Giant Ox, she was stopped by him. Why are you blocking the way? Haven't you heard that a good dog doesn't block the way? Cheng Minjing suddenly became angry and glared at Shishan Giant Ox. Miss Cheng, don't act rashly. Shishan Giant Ox didn't seem to hear Cheng Minjing's scolding at all. Instead, it said cautiously, there are too many dangers in the world of cultivation. It's better for us not to go there before we know the situation inside. What situation? What danger? Cheng Minjing stamped her feet impatiently, pointed in that direction and said, the town is over there. Won't we know when we go there? Why are you being so timid here? Do you think we are playing online games? How can there be so many dangerous things? Don't. What if that small town is a mirage? We will become a dead horse. Shishan Giant Ox immediately shook its head, and its feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. Chapter 1397. You're crazy. Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes at the bull, pointed to the figure in the town and said, if it's a mirage, how can there be people in it? Don't you even have this common sense? The bull frowned and thought for a while, but still shook its head and tried to persuade her. Even if it's not a mirage, it may be an illusion created by other immortal cultivators, deliberately deceiving people so that they can kill people and rob their treasures. We'd better be careful. I find that your brain circuit is really funny. Cheng Minjing snorted at the bull's description. If immortal cultivators could create such a powerful illusion, would they still need to come to this broken place to rob people? They have no brains at all. Miss Cheng, I'm not trying to scare you, but the people in this immortal cultivator world are beyond our imagination. Even if you are at the venerable peak, you are still nothing here. The bull still tried to persuade Cheng Minjing, but unfortunately, she did not buy it at all. So what if it's beyond imagination? Cheng Minjing snorted and said proudly, I'm also very powerful, not worse than Xiao Chen at all. Even if there are masters coming, I can kill them. The bull scratched its head in distress, thought for a moment, and gritted its teeth. Okay then. If you insist on going to that town, then let's go. But you have to promise me that you must keep a low profile. Trust me, you can't go wrong. Okay then. Let's keep a low profile, then let's go directly? What's the next step after entering the town? Cheng Minjing curled her lips and pulled up the veil again, carefully covering her face, only revealing a pair of beautiful eyes, and then asked in a low voice. After entering the town, let's first find someone to inquire about the situation in the town, then eat something to fill our stomachs, and then think about the next plan. The bull had already thought about the next step just now, and immediately replied. Oh, okay. Cheng Minjing nodded. She thought of something else and quickly asked, by the way, do you have any money with you? If I go to eat, I don't have money to pay the bill. Otherwise, I'll become a freeloader. I can't afford to lose my face. Hearing Cheng Minjing's question, Shishan Giant Ox suddenly slapped its head and said, I forgot to tell you before. In the immortal cultivation world, the banknotes of the secular world are not used. They all use high-grade spiritual jades as the common currency. In other words, spiritual jades that have been polished and carved are called spiritual crystals. Don't let it slip later. Ah, if it's so troublesome, why didn't you tell us beforehand? Xiao Chun and the others definitely didn't bring enough spirit jades. Spirit crystals. Doesn't that mean they won't even be able to eat? Cheng Minjing frowned and said unhappily. I was in such a hurry that I forgot, and I thought everyone would be teleported to the same place. I didn't expect everyone to be separated. Now, even if I want to say it, I can't. Shishan Giant Bull said in a low voice, a little embarrassed. You're really going to piss me off. Cheng Minjing couldn't wait to beat up Shishan Giant Bull. She managed to resist this impulse with great difficulty, and asked with a face full of displeasure. What about you? How many spiritual crystals did you bring? Shishan Giant Ox quickly took out a small bag from its arms, and counted the spiritual jades in it. It sighed and replied helplessly, Actually, I didn't bring much, just a dozen or so. High-grade spiritual jades are very difficult to obtain. At that time, I just took a bag with me and then forgot about it. Looking at the small bag in Shishan Giant Ox's hand, Cheng Minjing snorted and didn't bother to snatch the bag. Anyway, when there was a place to pay the bill, she would let this old man show up. Shishan Giant Ox carefully put the bag close to its body. Then it suddenly thought of something. It looked at Cheng Minjing and said, Also, if someone asks about our identity and origin, you must not tell the truth. The cultivators here look down on the people of the martial arts world. Don't make trouble for yourself. Okay, why do you look like you're going through menopause? You're so wishy-washy. You only know how to talk nonsense. Cheng Minjing squinted at Shishan Giant Ox and said angrily, Let's go and ask about the situation. I'm starving. At this time, Cheng Minjing's stomach was already rumbling with hunger. Her throat was so thirsty that it was about to spit fire. However, she was also annoyed by Shishan Giant Ox. She couldn't be bothered to talk to him anymore. She covered her ears and walked quickly in the direction of the town. Shishan Juninia's mouth twitched, and his expression became slightly distorted. As the lofty sect leader of the ghost cultivation sect, and the most outstanding talent in the martial arts world, no one had ever dared to mock him like this. Even Hong Dingrui and the others did not dare to do so. Unexpectedly, after entering the world of immortal cultivation, it was completely insulted by a little girl. Although there was a faint anger in its heart, Shishan Giant Ox did not dare to act rashly. After all, Cheng Minjing was Xiao Chen's wife. It could offend anyone, but a big shot from the world of immortal cultivation. Shishan Giant Ox, who swallowed his anger, had to adjust his mood and obediently followed behind Cheng Minjing, silently acting as a small follower. Entering the town quickly, Shishan Giant Ox looked around cautiously. After looking for a long time, he did not find anything wrong. He thought to himself, is this really a small town? There are no robbers who kill people and rob their goods? Cheng Minjing was not as careful as Shishan Giant Ox. She went straight into a restaurant that looked more upscale. Shishan Giant Ox had no choice but to follow her in. As soon as they sat down, Cheng Minjing quickly ordered some food and a few pots of hot water, and then quietly looked around. She found that there were not many people in the restaurant, but the atmosphere was not bad. Everyone was talking to each other, and the waiter was also busy with a smile on his face. Shishan Giant Ox also observed for a while, and found nothing unusual. Taking advantage of the fact that the food had not been served, he called a waiter to inquire about the news. After the waiter came over, Shishan Giant Ox first picked up the cup of water on the table and drank it. He felt that his dry throat had been relieved a little. Then he put on a smile that he thought was very kind and asked, Little brother, we father and daughter are both new to your honorable land, so we don't know much about the situation here. We want to find someone to ask, where is this place? Where is this place in the world of immortal cultivation? The two of you do look unfamiliar. Are you bandits from the desert? The waiter who walked over was a young boy. He first glanced strangely at the ferocious-looking West Mountain Giant Bull, then looked at Cheng Minjing, who was drinking water with a veil over her face. Then he took a step back with a vigilant expression and asked, What's wrong? Chapter 1398. What horse? Ouch. When Shishan Giant Bull heard that he was regarded as a bad guy, he was about to slap the table angrily. But before he could finish, he was kicked hard by Cheng Minjing under the table. Little brother, don't listen to his nonsense. He and I are just ordinary friends. We are not father and daughter at all. After Cheng Minjing kicked Shishan Giant Bull until he lost his voice, she slowly took off her veil and explained with a smile. Oh, I see. The waiter stayed in this remote place on the edge of the desert all year round. When had he ever seen a beauty of Cheng Minjing's level? He was immediately stunned, and his gaze at Cheng Minjing was a little dull. Cheng Minjing had long been used to this kind of gaze from others, so she didn't care. She stared at the waiter with a smile and continued, "We are really not from this town. We just came here with a few friends to play. Unexpectedly, there was a storm in the desert, so we got separated on the way. After we got lost, we came to this strange town. So I want to ask you about the situation here." "Hi, Miss Hello. This town is called Moyao Town. It is a town on the edge of Basiang County." After a while, the waiter came back to his senses. He touched his nose in embarrassment and hurriedly introduced the restaurant. "Moyao Town? Basiang County?" Shishan Giant Bull repeated it subconsciously, feeling a little dumbfounded. Why is the name of this place completely different from the town he came from before? I have never heard of it before. In the past, I could only enter the world of immortal cultivation through teleportation. Why was I teleported to a completely different place this time? What is going on? Yes. The waiter was still looking at Cheng Minjing in a daze. Hearing this, he nodded and added, "Because we're in the western part of the immortal cultivation world, there's only endless desert nearby. There's nothing to see at all, so very few people come here to sightsee. If there was any misunderstanding just now, please don't take it to heart. It's okay. It's mainly because my friend looks too much like a bad guy. It's not your fault." Cheng Minjing smiled and waved her hand. She rolled her eyes at Shishan Giant Bull and asked, "By the way, have you noticed any strangers appearing in Moyao Town recently?" Cheng Minjing deliberately ignores the lecherous expression of the waiter. Now she knows nothing about the environment in the world of cultivators. The most urgent thing for her is to meet with Xiao Chun and the others. She doesn't mind being stared at. In any case, he wouldn't lose a piece of flesh. As for the Shishan giant ox, it was drinking water gloomily at the side. Was it his fault that he looked like a bad guy? As the sect leader of the ghost cultivation sect, if he didn't look fierce, how could he hold the fort? No. The waiter frowned and recalled for a while. He shook his head and said, "Definitely no other strangers have been here." "I see." Cheng Minjing lowered her eyes in disappointment. It seemed that Xiao Chun and the others hadn't been to this town. Otherwise, the waiter would definitely have an impression. However, she still didn't give up and asked again, "Is it possible that they went to another restaurant and didn't come here? So you don't know?" "It's unlikely," the waiter said honestly, "because our restaurant is one of the better ones in Moyao Town. The location is also not bad. So, usually when strangers come here, they will choose to stay here. If we didn't find them, they probably won't be found in other places." "Okay then." Cheng Minjing sighed and changed the topic. "Then, I wonder who are the horse bandits that you mentioned just now?" The waiter's body trembled slightly. He first looked around vigilantly, then he lowered his voice and said, "The horse bandits are the bandit organization in the desert. They often burn, kill, and loot along the way in the surrounding towns. I heard that they even robbed a batch of goods from the Fan family a few days ago. The Fan family master was very angry. He said that he was gathering people to teach them a good lesson." "What? I didn't expect this group of horse bandits to be so hateful." Cheng Minjing frowned and said with some dissatisfaction. She didn't expect that the immortal cultivation world was similar to the martial arts world. There were also people who relied on force to rob property, and only wanted to reap without sowing. Shoo! The waiter was very nervous. He immediately put his finger in front of his lips and whispered, "Stop talking. Those horse bandits are very vengeful. They will take revenge for the smallest grievance. If they hear you, you will be in serious trouble." Shishan Giant Ox was relieved when he heard this. "That's right. I said that the immortal cultivation world is full of danger. It's impossible for everything to be peaceful and beautiful. Look, I was right, wasn't I?" Cheng Minjing didn't notice Shishan Giant Ox's expression at all. Instead, she wrinkled her nose disdainfully. However, she didn't ask any more questions. Instead, she asked, "The Fan family that you just mentioned sounds quite powerful. What do they do?" "Oh, the Fan family is a big family in our Moyao Town. They are rich in supplies, and often do business with merchants in the surrounding towns. Seeing that Chung Minjing changed the topic, the waiter finally breathed a sigh of relief and continued to introduce. I heard that they even have customers in Basian County. It seems that the goods that they were going to send out this time were robbed on the way to Basian County. Little Six, what are you doing? Come and help. Before the waiter finished speaking, the shopkeeper suddenly shouted. It turned out that he was asked to serve the dishes. I'm coming. The waiter responded, then hurriedly added to Chung Minjing. If you want to find someone, you can go to the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce to try. Then I'll go and busy myself first. After that, the waiter left Chung Minjing's table. He served the dishes they ordered attentively, and then went to do other things. Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce? What the hell is that? Shishan Giant Ox said to himself in surprise. When I came to the Immortal Cultivation world last time, I didn't hear anyone mention it. Could it be that it just became popular recently? Shishan Giant Ox pinched its chin and thought, but it felt that its brain was full of paste. It had no impression at all. AI. It seems that this Immortal Cultivation world is really not that simple. Shishan Giant Ox pinched its chin and thought, but it felt that its brain was full of paste. It had no impression at all. AI. It seems that this Immortal Cultivation world is really not that simple. Seeing that the waiter had served the dishes, Chung Minjing smelled the fragrance, and her stomach immediately began to growl. She was not interested in continuing to ask. She quickly picked up the chopsticks and stuffed some vegetables into her mouth. She muttered vaguely, Forget it, let's eat first. It's important to fill our stomachs. We'll go to the Chamber of Commerce later. Chapter 1399. Chung Minjing had already given up hope on Shishan Giant Bull, who didn't know anything at all. She didn't know if it was true or not when it said that it had been to the cultivation world before. It seemed that it didn't know anything about what the waiter had said. Maybe it had made up the story about coming to the cultivation world. All right then. Shishan Giant Ox thought for a long time, but could not find a clue, so it could only agree. Looking at the table full of fragrant dishes, it temporarily threw the matter of finding Xiao Chun to the back of its mind. By the way, don't ever say that we are father and daughter. Chung Minjing didn't forget to complain to the giant bull while eating. I don't want to be your daughter. Besides, we look completely different. Who would believe that? Besides, you are old enough to be my grandfather. The giant bull remembered the nonsense it had said in a moment of desperation. It couldn't help but smile awkwardly. It didn't dare to refute. It picked up the chopsticks and gobbled up the food. After eating and drinking to its heart's content, the giant bull burped with satisfaction. It took out the bag containing the spiritual crystals and waved at the waiter, asking him to pay the bill. Are you two done eating? Are you satisfied with the food? The waiter immediately walked over and put 2 cups of tea on the table. He asked with a smile. Well, it's okay. Here is the bill. How much is the total spiritual crystals? The giant bull waved its hand lazily. It almost made a mistake. Okay, you have spent a total of 5 spiritual crystals. This is the bill. Please have a look. The waiter took out a receipt from his back, bowed and handed it to Shishan Giant Bull, and reported with a smile. What did you say? 5 spiritual crystals? The Shishan Giant Bull, who was originally reclining, immediately sat up straight and asked with a surprised expression. It's just some ordinary food? Why does it cost 5 spirit crystals? The giant bull didn't have time to listen to the waiter's explanation. It immediately snatched the bill and looked down. It pointed at the item on the bill and scolded. What's wrong with you? We asked for 2 pots of hot water, and you charge 1 spiritual crystal for each pot? Is your restaurant a scam? Hee hee. Please calm down and listen to my explanation. The waiter wasn't angry. He still said with a smile. Both of you are from another place, so you might not know much about the situation here. Our Moyao town is just at the edge of the desert, so water is the most scarce. But isn't this a little too expensive? 1 pot of water costs 1 spirit crystal. I don't even have to spend so much to buy a pot. West Mountain Giant Cow grabbed the bill with one hand and pointed at the teapot on the table with the other. It shouted angrily. That can't be helped. You can go and ask around. In this town, no matter where you go, the price of water is the same. We definitely don't mean to cheat you. The waiter spread his hands helplessly. After all, there isn't enough water in our town. Most of it is transported from other places. The cost is already very high, which is why we are selling it at such a high price. Please understand. Then can't you give us a discount a little better? We just came from another place, so we don't know the situation here. 5 spirit crystals is indeed a little too much. Chung Minjing was speechless after listening to the waiter. She begged pitifully. That being said, Chung Minjing could still understand the difficulties of this restaurant. Water was originally more precious than gold in the desert. If the waiter really said that the water had to be transported from other places, then the transportation alone would cost a lot. After deducting the cost, there wouldn't be much profit. I can't make the decision for this. The waiter looked embarrassed. He couldn't bear to refuse Chung Minjing's plea, but he couldn't help her to give a discount. After thinking for a long time, he gritted his teeth and said, "How about this? I will help you ask our shopkeeper first. If he agrees, then we can give you a discount." "That's great. Then I thank you in advance. You are so nice." Chung Minjing immediately nodded with a smile. Her flower-like smile dazzled the waiter. He immediately patted his chest and guaranteed. Then he quickly ran away with the bill. Shishan Giant Bull and Chung Minjing looked at the back of the waiter. They saw him run to the counter and find a middle-aged fat man. The two of them whispered to each other. The fat man seemed to be a little unwilling at first and scolded the waiter with a displeased expression. However, the waiter didn't seem to give up and still persistently tried to persuade him. He even pointed at Chung Minjing's table and let the shopkeeper take a look. The shopkeeper glared at the waiter impatiently. Then he glanced at Chung Minjing's table. However, when he saw Chung Minjing's lovely appearance, his eyes suddenly flashed with a stunned light. He was stunned. Chung Minjing immediately put on a pitiful expression. She cupped her hands at the shopkeeper. Then, she quietly pointed to her own table, asking the shopkeeper to give her some face and give her some discount. The shopkeeper was stunned for a long time. The waiter kept nagging at the side. Finally, he gritted his teeth and nodded. He said a few words to the waiter, and then waved his hand to signal for him to settle it. However, the shopkeeper's own eyes didn't move away from Chung Minjing's face. He kept admiring the beautiful and charming young miss. He looked for a long time, until the back of the waiter blocked his view. Then, the shopkeeper reluctantly looked away and went to greet other customers. The waiter didn't notice the gaze of the shopkeeper behind him. Instead, he happily walked to Chung Minjing's table and said with a smile, "Thanks to this lady's beauty, our shopkeeper is also a man who has tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. After my hard persuasion, he finally agreed to give you a discount of 1 spiritual crystal for the dishes. However, because the price of water is the same in the town, we can't give a discount. We will charge you 4 spiritual crystals." "Hee hee. Thank you for saving us money, little brother." Chung Minjing nodded happily. She was obviously very satisfied with the waiter's praise. She also complimented the waiter. Shishan Giant Bull was still holding the small bag tightly with a painful expression. It was as if he didn't hear the conversation between the two. "Why are you in a daze?" Chung Minjing waited for a while and found that the Shishan Giant Bull didn't move at all. She couldn't help but urge, "Quickly pay the bill. We still have to go to the Dada Cultivation Chamber of Commerce and find a way to find someone." "Oh, okay." The Shishan Giant Bull came back to its senses. It gritted its teeth and counted from the small bag for a long time. Then, it took out 4 spiritual crystals and handed them to the waiter with trembling hands. Its burning eyes were still fixed on the spiritual crystals. Chapter 1400. Although its heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, West Mountain Giant Bull did not dare to eat without paying. The world of cultivators was full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and its strength was not high. It would not be good if it accidentally offended some big shot. "Okay, I'll charge you 4 crystals. Thank you for your patronage." After the waiter accepted the spirit crystals, He put them into the small pouch on his waist and pointed outside with a smile. The Dada Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce is not far ahead. There is a large signboard hanging outside the door, so it's very easy to see. I hope you can find your lost companions as soon as possible. After pointing the way, the waiter cleaned up the empty dishes on the table, turned around and walked to the counter. West Mountain Giant Bull was still a little angry when it saw the 2 cups of tea that the waiter had placed on the table when it was paying the bill. It took them with hatred and drank the 2 cups. The water here was so expensive. These 2 cups of tea should cost half a spirit crystal, right? It would be a waste not to drink them. Seeing the behavior of the giant bull, Chung Minjing couldn't help but roll her eyes and complained in a low voice. Aren't you too much of a loser? How much can these 2 cups of tea be? How can you be so calculative? The giant bull sighed helplessly. My lady, the crystals are not yours. Of course, you don't understand me. Before it finished its words, there was a sudden rush of horse hooves outside the door. It came from afar like a storm, and it was mixed with men's curses. Shishan Giant Bull and Chung Minjing looked at each other in astonishment, then raised their heads to look outside. They saw a few masked men dressed in black galloping from not far away. In a flash, they flew past the outside of the restaurant, so fast that only a few shadows could be seen. Chung Minjing was shocked. She looked over curiously and found that the men in black were galloping forward while looking back from time to time. Although their faces were covered, everyone's eyes were very fierce, as if they were vultures staring at their prey. However, at this time, there was a trace of seriousness in their eyes. Especially the leader. Chung Minjing's sharp eyes saw that his body was still oozing blood, and his face was a little gloomy. It seemed that he was seriously injured. Following their gazes, Chung Minjing did not see anything at first, but after a while, another group of people swarmed over. There were many of them, and they looked mighty. Their bodies were all emitting waves of yuan qi. Chung Minjing observed carefully, and found that although these people looked ordinary, all of them were at the qi refining stage. The middle-aged man, who was leading them, was at the 7th level of the qi refining stage. Mother ***, you actually dare to run? Your father must slaughter you today. Just as Chung Minjing was observing with interest, the middle-aged man shouted at the group of people in front of him. Then he used his movement technique and quickly chased after them. Chung Minjing was about to go out and see what was happening when she was suddenly pulled from behind. It turned out that the waiter had also heard the noise outside. He turned his head to look outside, and his expression changed. He saw that the beauty was about to go out, so he quickly ran over and pulled Chung Minjing back. What's wrong? What's going on outside? Why are you pulling me back? Chung Minjing looked at the waiter with some surprise and asked. Shishan walked behind Chung Minjing at this time and looked out in confusion. The waiter said nervously, Miss, you'd better not go out for now. The Fan family's servants are chasing the horse gang outside. Swords have no eyes. If you are accidentally injured by them, it will be troublesome. Shishan heard the waiter say this, and was shocked to the point of sucking in a breath of cold air. He quickly pulled Chung Minjing back and cautiously said, Don't forget what you promised me before. It's dangerous outside, don't go out. When Chung Minjing heard the 2 of them say this, she could only helplessly stop her steps. Although she already had the strength of a peak nascent soul cultivator, and didn't care about the qi refining cultivators outside, she didn't want to be inexplicably involved in other people's disputes. It was better to wait for the chase outside to end before going out. Although her footsteps had stopped, Chung Minjing was still very curious about what was happening outside, and continued to look outside. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a sound of wind breaking. Chung Minjing saw clearly that the middle-aged man at the 7th level of the qi refining stage moved his fingers lightly, and a silver-white light shot out from between his fingers, directly piercing the leg of a horse gang in front of him. The horse let out a miserable neigh, and one of its legs slipped, causing it to lose its balance. The horse gang didn't have time to react, and he fell to the ground with his horse. His whole body was crushed by the horse, and he was dizzy from the fall, unable to get up for a long time. Hee, aren't you very capable? Are you very good at running? Let's see how you can run now. The middle-aged man sneered, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. He turned over and jumped off the horse, strode to the side of the man, and ridiculed him in a strange tone. After ridiculing him, the middle-aged man bent down and reached out to pull out the silver-white weapon from the horse's leg. Chung Minjing looked at the weapon, and it was a strangely shaped dagger. Then he grabbed the man in black who was crushed by the horse and used the dagger to firmly press against the man's neck. Brother Chun, quickly save me. I don't want to die. Help. Feeling the chill on his neck, the black-clothed horse gang's whole body went limp, and his trembling voice shouted to the person in front of him, who was not far away. Hearing the tone of the horse gang, Chung Minjing seemed to be quite young, and should have just joined the horse gang not too long ago. She couldn't help but secretly shake her head. Of all the things he could do, he had to become a bandit. Now he only knew fear after being caught. But to her surprise, the horse gang in front of her didn't abandon the captured horse gang, and instead chose to run away. Instead, they immediately pulled on the reins and turned their horses around to look back. At the same time, the Fan family's servants who had been chasing finally rushed to the side of the horse gang. Seeing that these people had actually stopped running, they were immediately overjoyed and quickly surrounded them. Oh, what's the matter? Is it because of brotherly affection that made people's blood boil? The middle-aged man looked at the group of horse gang with a face full of ridicule and sneered with disdain. The leader of the black-clothed man gritted his teeth and endured the bursts of pain from his wound. He stared at the middle-aged man and coldly snorted, "If you want to kill us, then kill us. We will not yield. We are only staying here so that our brothers won't be lonely when they die." Chapter 1401. Ha ha ha. You're just a bunch of lowly scoundrels who specialize in stealing chickens and dogs. Do you really think of yourselves as heroes? The middle-aged man laughed impudently. He used his empty hand to pat the face of the mounted bandit in his hand and said with a smile, "Look, your brothers want to see you die. Don't you feel disheartened?" The mounted bandit's head was already covered in cold sweat. His tears and snot were mixed together, and his mouth was muttering something indiscernible. "Are you a man or not? Hurry up and do it. Don't be wishy-washy and say such nonsense." The black-clothed man frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "You can't wait to see your brothers die? All right, then I'll fulfill your wish." The middle-aged man looked at him mockingly. He then took off the mask of the mounted bandit in his hand and raised his eyebrows, saying, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be such a handsome young man. But it's a pity that your life ends here." A silver light suddenly flashed. The middle-aged man's sharp dagger quickly slashed across the neck of the young mounted bandit. He didn't leave any last words and was easily beheaded. With a schwa sound, fresh blood gushed out from the neck of the mounted bandit like a fountain. Then, the corpse fell limply to the ground, staining the entire ground red. Putting away the silver dagger, the middle-aged man swaggered the severed head of the mounted bandit in his hand. He then took out a bag and threw it into the bag. "Brothers, our patriarch Fan has said that as long as we can capture these mounted bandits, whether they're dead or alive, each one will be worth 50 spirit crystals." The middle-aged man shouted proudly, "If any of you want to get rich, then hurry up and do it. After we get our reward, we'll be able to enjoy ourselves for a while. If we're too late, we might all be robbed." "Good. Kill these scum." A few of the Fan family's consecrators were excited. They raised their arms and shouted. They all activated their mental cultivation methods and took out all kinds of magical instruments. They rushed toward the group of black-clothed men aggressively. The leader of the black-clothed men saw that the situation was not good and shouted, "Brothers, since they won't let us live, then let's not be merciful. Killing one is not a loss. Killing two is a gain. Let's kill them." At this moment, the other bandits around him also looked as if they were not afraid of death. With the mentality that they would perish together with the enemy, they instantly became entangled in battle with the Fan family's offerings. On one hand, their eyes were red with greed for wealth, and on the other hand, they were fighting with all their might to save their lives. The originally quiet street was suddenly filled with the sounds of killing, and broken limbs were flying everywhere. Many of the nearby merchants immediately closed their doors to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Looking at the blood-splattered battlefield, Chung Minjing's stomach churned as she recalled the scene of the young mounted gangster being beheaded. She turned around and took a few deep breaths. She thought to herself, "These people are too disgusting. In order to kill mounted gangsters to earn some spiritual crystals, they have to cut off their heads. I don't know what's wrong with them." Killing mounted bandits to earn spiritual crystals? Thinking of this, Chung Minjing's eyes suddenly lit up. She excitedly patted the Shishan giant bull and said excitedly, "Hey, killing mounted bandits can earn so much money. Why don't we go kill them as well? Those mounted bandits seem quite weak. I think you can easily take care of them." "You're crazy. What are you thinking? That's too dangerous. Don't you see that they are all cultivators? And many of them are around the 4th or 5th level of the Qi refinement stage. How can they be so easy to kill?" The Shishan giant bull flatly rejected Chung Minjing's suggestion. Seeing her unconvinced expression, it pointed to a place not far away and said, "If you don't believe me, look over there." Chung Minjing glanced in the direction that the Shishan giant bull was pointing. Coincidentally, one of the Fan family's consecrators made a mistake and was directly hit in the head by another mounted bandit with a magical weapon. His whole body was sent flying, and red and white matter splattered in the air. When he landed, he was already dead. "TSK, I didn't expect you to be so timid. You're not willing to do anything. If you're like this, how can we earn spiritual crystals?" Chung Minjing rolled her eyes and scolded him. If it weren't for the fact that she was afraid of being stained with blood, which would make it difficult to wash her dirty clothes, and also because she didn't want to reveal her true strength in front of the Shishan giant bull, Chung Minjing would have already rushed out and killed all the mounted bandits and harvested their heads for spiritual crystals. "I say, madam, this matter is not as simple as you think it is." The Shishan giant bull sighed and explained patiently, "Even if I have the ability to do it, the Fan family's consecrators will never agree. When that time comes, not only will I not earn any spiritual crystals, but I will also be hunted down by them. I will not do such a thankless thing." In fact, the Shishan giant bull was not a fool. It was obvious that the Fan family had come to kill the mounted bandits for spiritual crystals. How could they let the money that was already in their hands fall into someone else's pocket? If such a person really appeared, he was definitely here to steal. From the Shishan giant bull's point of view, human nature was inherently greedy. Rather than being hunted down for a few dozen spiritual crystals, it was better to protect itself. Chung Minjing pouted and finally stopped talking. Although she really wanted to earn some spiritual crystals to live, she also understood what it meant to be a sinister person. If the Fan family bore a grudge against her, she would not be able to bear the consequences. Looking at the killing outside, the Shishan giant bull shook its head and urged in a low voice, "Let's hurry up and leave. We can leave from the back door. After we go to the De Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce and settle the matter of finding someone, we should find a place to work. It will be less dangerous." Chung Minjing had no choice but to ask the waiter for directions to the back door. Then, she nodded at him to say goodbye and quietly left the restaurant with the Shishan giant bull through the back door. After slipping out of the restaurant, the Shishan giant bull recalled the 4 spiritual crystals that he had just taken out. It felt as if its heart was dripping blood. It was so King unlucky to be transported to such a broken place. Not to mention killing and looting on the streets. Even a bottle of water was so expensive. It seemed like it had to find a way to get some spiritual crystals as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would not even be able to afford water, let alone food. Sooner or later, it would die of thirst here. I wonder if that restaurant is still hiring new employees? Should I go back and ask? Chung Minjing did not think too much about it. After coming out from the back door, she walked around for a long time. When the movement in front of her disappeared, she directly walked forward. The Shishan giant bull could only carefully follow behind her. Chapter 1402. When they arrived at the street in front of the restaurant, Chung Minjing looked over and found that a group of people had already finished fighting. The Fan family's consecrator had probably cleaned up all the mounted gangsters. There were no more scenes of fighting on the street, except for some people cleaning up the mess. The West Mountain Giant Bull let out a sigh of relief. Chung Minjing raised her head and observed the signboards of the roadside shops. She found that the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce was just about 100 meters in front of them, so she quickly walked over there. Miss Ching only wanted to find Xiao Chun and the others as soon as possible. As for other things, she could only adapt to the situation. When they arrived at the entrance of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, the two of them found that it was completely unaffected by the commotion just now. It was still crowded and seemed to be very lively. Although the two of them were a little surprised, they still directly walked in. After taking 2 steps, the West Mountain Giant Bull suddenly saw a recruitment notice hanging on the wall. It immediately read it and said with a surprised expression, I didn't expect that this Chamber of Commerce, in addition to helping to find people, is actually recruiting cultivators to work. How about we earn some spirit crystals here first? That way, we won't even be able to pay for water. The West Mountain Giant Cow was quite interested in working to earn spirit crystals. If it could find a less dangerous job here, it wouldn't be as risky as killing the mounted gangsters. It would also be good if it could earn enough money to feed itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't know when it would run out of spirit crystals. Chung Minjing also went over to take a look. Then, she looked around at the simple and crude office environment and frowned. She always felt that this Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce was a bit like a shell company in the secular world. It was very unreliable. I don't think this place is reliable. Seeing that the West Mountain Giant Bull was still eagerly waiting for her reply, Chung Minjing shook her head in disapproval and said with a face full of suspicion, Do you think they are swindlers? They want us to pay some clothing fees or management fees, and then run away with the spirit crystals. Or they want us to work for free for a period of time, and then not pay us wages. There's such a thing. Isn't this an empty deal? Shishan Giant Ox doesn't know much about the secular world. It is stunned by the deception mentioned by Chung Minjing. Isn't that so? Look at this rundown place. How does it look like a high-end company? I think this Chamber of Commerce is a little dangerous. Chung Minjing curled her lips and snorted. What you said sounds reasonable. Shishan nodded in agreement. He rubbed his chin and thought for a while before saying, Then wait here for a while, I'll go ask someone. As soon as he finished speaking, Shishan Junyo turned around and strolled around the hall. He found a man who was standing on the side looking at the notice, and pretended to casually ask, Brother, may I ask what this Immortal Cultivators Chamber of Commerce does? The name sounds a little strange. Could it be a scammer? When Chung Minjing heard Shishan Junyo's question, she almost laughed out loud. This guy is too honest. He actually asked so bluntly, What if he is a staff member of the Chamber of Commerce? Aren't you scolding a bald donkey in front of a monk? Fortunately, the man seems to be a passerby. When he heard Shishan Junyo's question, although he looked at her strangely, he still shook his head and replied, How is that possible? The Immortal Cultivators Chamber of Commerce is a super chamber of commerce in all the major counties of the cultivation world. Not only do they have many members, but they also have a good reputation. I heard that they have dealings with all the major sects and families. How could they be scammers? That's strange. Shishan Junyo scratched his head and muttered in confusion. When I came here a few years ago, I don't think I've seen this Chamber of Commerce. The scale is so big. Where did they come from? It seems that you came from a relatively remote town? The man had an expression of sudden realization. He looked at Shishan Junyo and explained, In the past, the Immortal Cultivators Chamber of Commerce only had branches in the counties. Recently, they began to expand their business to some remote towns. I heard that they are determined to cover all the large and small counties. This is enough to see how powerful they are. Looking at Shishan Junyo's contemplative expression, some of the doubts that the man originally had disappeared. He secretly thought that this guy must have come from a remote and desolate place. Otherwise, he wouldn't have never heard of the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce. He even suspected that they were scammers. After waiting for a while, seeing that Shishan Junyo had no intention of continuing to ask questions, the man was too lazy to say more. He turned around and busied himself with his own business. Shishan Junyo, since this place isn't a scammer, why don't we give it a try first? Cheng Minjing suggested. Anyway, there is no other feasible way at the moment. We can work in the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce, while asking people from the Chamber of Commerce to help us find Xiao Chen. It can be considered killing two birds with one stone. In fact, as the eldest daughter of the Cheng family, Cheng Minjing was not very willing to work for others. However, the current situation was unfavorable, so she could only endure it for the time being. Otherwise, when all the spirit crystals on Shishan Junyo were used up, their situation would probably be worse than now. Okay, then I'll go ask the staff over there first. Shishan Junyo nodded and walked to the counter. He randomly found a man in a uniform, cupped his hands, and said, "Hello. I want to ask you to help me find a few companions. May I ask what the standard fee of your Chamber of Commerce is? Where did your companions go missing? How long have they been missing?" The staff didn't directly answer Shishan Junyo's question, but asked a question instead. They've been missing for a few days. I don't know the specific location, but it should be in the desert. Shishan Junyo thought about it and replied cautiously. Oh, if they go missing in the desert, then it's more difficult to find them. Moreover, if they've been missing for too long, our Chamber of Commerce may not be able to find them. The staff wasn't as nervous as Shishan Junyo. He answered smoothly. If you want to find a missing person, you need to ask the initiator to provide the physical appearance and characteristics of the missing person. The standard fee will also be divided into different levels. Ah, there are different levels? How is the specific fee calculated? Shishan Junyo was a little confused by the staff's set of words, so it asked subconsciously. The staff lowered his head and flipped through the manual, then reported in a clear tone. It depends on how many employees you assign to help you find them. The usual standard is 10 spirit crystals per person per day. Of course, if you want to ask senior cultivators to help you find people, the fee will also increase exponentially, because the efficiency will be higher. Chapter 1403. So expensive. I can't afford it. Hearing this amount, the bull was shocked. He couldn't even afford to eat and drink, let alone hire people to work for the Chamber of Commerce. How could he have extra money to spend on other things? Then there's nothing we can do. This is the standard fee of our Chamber of Commerce. It's the same in all counties. The staff member said expressionlessly as he spread out his hands. Shishan Giant Bull felt helpless, so it had to change the topic and asked, "Then if I want to apply for a job, how much is the pay for the job?" The staff first lowered his head and took a sip of tea carefully. Then he raised his head and said, "There are many types of jobs. Low-level workers can earn 7 or 8 crystals a day. Middle-level workers can earn dozens of crystals a day. As for high-level workers, it depends on how much they are willing to pay. Some of the more dangerous jobs can even earn hundreds of crystals at once." Then what are the contents of these jobs? How easy are the simple tasks? How dangerous are the dangerous tasks? Cheng Minjing came over and asked. When she heard the staff member's offer, she had an idea. If the conditions were right, it would be better to choose a job that could earn more money. Now she didn't even have the money to hire people. God knows what she would need to spend in the future. Alas, if I had known this would happen, I would have asked Jia Muzin for some spirit crystals before coming here. Then, I wouldn't be so poor now. You two are together? The staff looked at Cheng Minjing, who suddenly appeared, and then looked at the Shishan Giant Yak in confusion. Seeing the Shishan Giant Yak nod slightly, the staff then asked, "Then may I ask what is your cultivation level?" The jobs in the Chamber of Commerce are divided according to strength. Those with higher strength can handle more dangerous tasks, so they can naturally earn more spirit crystals. My external strength is the 3rd level of the Evil Master stage, and my internal strength is the 1st level of the Foundation Establishment stage. The bull raised his chin with a proud expression. It was obvious that he was very confident in his cultivation. My external strength is the peak of the venerable realm, and my internal strength is the first level of the qi refinement stage. Cheng Minjing hesitated for a moment and said cautiously, after coming to the world of cultivation, Cheng Minjing learned from Shishan Giant Bull that the division of strength in the world of cultivation was very different from that in the internal martial arts world. If it was an ordinary martial cultivator or devil cultivator, they would basically have to start from the qi refinement stage after coming to the immortal cultivation world, which was equivalent to starting from zero. Therefore, no matter how powerful a martial venerable or demon venerable was in the inner martial world, their cultivation level would usually be ignored after they entered the world of cultivators. This was because most people here only looked at one's inner strength, which was the strength of a cultivator. As for the third level of the evil sect mentioned by the giant bull, it was because the first time he entered the cultivation world, he had already broken through the ceiling of the venerable realm and reached a higher level. In the world of cultivation, the level above the venerable realm was unified as the martial arts sect, the devil sect, and the evil sect. The evil cultivators were hated by the martial arts world, but they had their own place in the world of cultivation. This was because these were external strength. No matter how powerful they were, they could not compete with the internal strength. Therefore, in the eyes of cultivators, martial cultivators, devil cultivators, and evil cultivators were all relatively low-level cultivators. They were not taken seriously by them. They paid more attention to the cultivation of their own inner strength. As for Cheng Minjing, her strength was actually similar to Xiao Chen's. Before she entered the world of cultivation, she had already reached the peak of the original infant stage. Previously, she did not understand what Xiao Chen meant when he said that cultivators were more powerful than martial cultivators and devil cultivators. After listening to Shishan Giant Bull's explanation, she realized that she was the highest level cultivator in the legends. Although she was secretly happy, Cheng Minjing still deliberately concealed her own inner strength. After all, she did not know much about Shishan Giant Bull. She did not intend to expose her true cultivation too early, lest she accidentally made a fool of herself. In addition, Cheng Minjing also felt that if she wanted to work with Shishan Giant Bull, the difference in their strength should not be too big. Otherwise, if they were assigned to work in different places, it would be even more difficult for the two of them to contact each other. Although Cheng Minjing did not like Shishan Giant Bull very much, under the current situation, the two of them could only work together. After they found Xiao Chen, they could think about the next thing. Well, your strength is not bad. You can barely do some intermediate tasks. The staff looked at Shishan Giant Bull and nodded. Then, he turned his head to look at Cheng Minjing and frowned. As for your level, it is a bit too low. You are only at the first level of qi training. There is not much difference between you and an ordinary person. You can only do some simple mining work. You are a girl. I am afraid it is not very suitable. That, little brother. Shishan Giant Bull saw that the situation was not good and quickly smiled. She is my. Ahem. Without waiting for Shishan Giant Bull to finish speaking, Cheng Minjing immediately cleared her throat and glared at him with a slightly threatening look. My granddaughter. The Shishan Giant Bull immediately recalled what Cheng Minjing had said to him in the restaurant just now, and hurriedly changed his words and raised his status by another level. Only then did Cheng Minjing let out a satisfied "hmm." The staff member was confused by the two people who were talking in riddles. He asked in surprise, So, she is relatively young. I have to take care of her safety. Shishan Giant Bull wiped his sweat and explained with a forced smile. If you can arrange for us to work together, that would be the best. Even if we get a lower salary, it is not a problem. Although his words were very humble, Shishan Giant Bull felt very unhappy in his heart. He was too unlucky. He actually met a little girl with such a low cultivation, and he had to give in to her for everything. He was really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. I see. The staff thought for a while and found a contract from the cabinet. He put it on the table and said while holding his chin, "In that case, why don't you both get a salary? I happen to have a suitable job here. The specific content is written on the contract. You can take a look. If there is no problem, you can sign and mark it." Shishan Jinyu and Chung Minjing looked at each other. They thought that since the two of them were working together, it wouldn't make much of a difference if they got a share of the salary. They nodded and took the contract in front of them. The two of them read it carefully from beginning to end, and found that the job marked in the contract was to work in a place called Juyi Shop. The requirements for strength were relatively broad, ranging from the first level of the Qi refinement stage to the first level of the foundation establishment stage. However, the specific amount of salary was not specified. It was stated that the salary would be given according to the individual's strength. Chapter 1404. Seeing that the two of them were looking at the contract carefully, the staff added lightly, "Don't worry, this contract has already stated that different jobs will be arranged according to your level. If you don't have the corresponding strength or misreport your strength, causing the cooperation to fail, and damaging the reputation of our Chamber of Commerce, then don't blame us for being impolite in the future." Chung Minjing found it refreshing and asked curiously, "Do you have any punishment measures?" "Of course," the staff said proudly. "If there is a breach of contract, our Immortal Chamber of Commerce will blacklist you directly. From now on, you are not allowed to participate in any business activities of the Immortal Chamber of Commerce. Even if you die in the line of duty, our Chamber of Commerce will not pay for any funeral expenses. This little brother is too serious. Of course we didn't make a false report." West Mountain Giant Cow was afraid that the staff would doubt it, so it quickly waved its hand to deny it. Then, it pointed to a certain part at the end of the contract and humbly asked, "Oh right, I have a question. May I ask, what does the guarantor column here mean?" "Where?" The staff stretched out his head and glanced at it. "Oh," he said, "that's what you need to fill out. It's to guarantee that there's no problem with your strength. If there's any mistake, you'll have to hold the guarantor accountable. If the hired workers are injured or killed because of the partner's mistake, the pension and funeral expenses will be sent to the guarantor." "Ah, this. Can I not fill in?" West Mountain Giant Cow asked with some difficulty. He and Chung Minjing had no relatives here, and he didn't know where his other partners were scattered. Who could he find to be a guarantor? Wasn't this making things difficult for him? "No, you have to fill it." The staff refused flatly and immediately added, "And this guarantor must be a relative. If there isn't one, you can't join our Immortal Chamber of Commerce." West Mountain Giant Cow was completely dumbfounded. "Why do I need relatives? I haven't contacted my relatives since 800 years ago. They have probably all turned into ashes. Where can I find them to be a guarantor? Could it be that my attempt to work in the Chamber of Commerce to make money is going to end before it even starts?" "Excuse me." Just as Shishan Giant Bull was feeling depressed, Chung Minjing's voice suddenly sounded, "Excuse me, I'm his granddaughter, can I vouch for him?" "You." The staff sized up Chung Minjing with a hesitant look. "It's like this. Because we've just arrived here, and our relatives and friends are all in our hometown, we can't find a suitable person to be our guarantor. However, we really want this job, so please be magnanimous and make an exception for us." Chung Minjing once again put on what she thought was the most pitiful expression and pleaded in a low voice. It had to be said that this tactic was time-tested. When the staff saw a great beauty blinking her big watery eyes at him and begging him in a low voice, he would be aroused to protect her no matter what. "All right then. Since you are only signing one contract, let this old man sign it, and you can be his guarantor." The staff pondered for a while, and finally made the decision under Chung Minjing's eager gaze. Good, thank you so much." Shishan Giant Bull was overjoyed. He immediately picked up the pen and signed his name on the contract. He was afraid that the staff would not let him sign it when he sobered up. Chung Minjing also picked up the pen on the table and carefully wrote her name in the guarantor column. After confirming that there was no mistake, she handed the contract to the staff. "All right, you two wait here for a while. I'll go and save the contract, Then bring your employee certificates over. By the way, I'll arrange your next work. After checking the signature on the contract, the staff nodded, stood up, and walked into the inner room with the contract. Chung Minjing and Shishan Giant Bull breathed a sigh of relief and began to read the tasks posted around carefully. They wanted to see if there were any missing advertisements posted by Xiao Chun or others. They even asked some strangers around for information, but they still found nothing. Not long after, the staff came back with a token and greeted Chung Minjing and Shishan Giant Bull. Then, he handed the token to Shishan Giant Bull and said, "Keep this token. This is your employee certificate in the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. If you lose it, you will have to pay a fee to replace it." Shishan Giant Ox quickly took the token, then held it in his hand and fiddled with it. He found that it was just an ordinary thing without the slightest aura. It should be prepared for the lowest level workers. Now go to the east street of Moyao Town immediately, find a shop called Juyi Shop, and then go in and report to Butler Gao. The staff said unhurriedly, "As long as you show him your token and explain the situation, he will arrange a job for you." Shishan Giant Bull put away the token, nodded and asked, "Excuse me, what kind of work do we need to do?" "How do I know? When you get there, you can ask Butler Gao. Won't you understand?" At this time, the staff realized that he had been fooled by Chung Minjing, but he couldn't go back on his word, so he was in a bad mood. He waved his hand impatiently and said, Okay, if there's nothing else, you can go now. They are in a hurry to hire people. Don't dawdle here." Shishan Giant Bull's mouth twitched, and he clenched his fists quietly. When he was in the inner martial arts world before, when had he ever suffered such vexation? However, Shishan Giant Bull also understood that his current situation was different, so although he was angry, he could only nod obediently. After thanking the staff, he walked out of the Dada Cultivation Chamber of Commerce with Chung Minjing. After going out of the door, Shishan Giant Bull remembered that he left in a hurry and forgot to ask the staff how to get to the East Street. Fortunately, the road had been cleaned at this time, and there were many pedestrians. He grabbed a passerby at random, asked for the location, and hurried there with Chung Minjing. After half an hour, Chung Minjing and Shishan Giant Bull came to the Juyi shop and informed the shop assistant, who greeted them warmly. After the shop assistant learned about it, he didn't dare to neglect and immediately ran to report to Butler Gao. They had nothing to do, so they wandered around the shop, thinking that they could learn about the working environment of this shop. Chapter 1405. Chung Minjing looked around at the four walls of the shop and found that they were all hung with dazzling and strange-looking metals. She couldn't help but ask curiously, "West Mountain Giant Bull, do you know what these strange things are used for? Why have I never seen them before?" "I'm not too sure. Maybe they use them as spiritual artifacts. All the cultivators here have their own spiritual artifacts, which are very high-end." West Mountain Giant Bull studied for a long time and scratched its head uncertainly. Chung Minjing secretly curled her lips and thought to herself, "You call it high-end just because you have a spiritual artifact? I can defeat all of them with my bare hands. This guy is too cowardly. He doesn't have the posture of a master at all." After walking for a while, Chung Minjing began to think and guessed. "Do you think that the person sent us here means that we will be salesmen here in the future?" "That's possible." The West Mountain Giant Bull nodded in agreement. Then it frowned and muttered, "If I have to greet people with a smile all day and sell things, it's too painful. It's better to just kill me. It's not a big deal. You'll get used to it." Chung Minjing waved her hand casually and said, "Fortunately, I used to sell things like soy milk and youtiao in the morning market. I have some sales experience, so there won't be any problems." What did you say?" West Mountain Giant Bull was stunned. "Did I hear it wrong? I didn't expect that Chung Minjing, who usually looked like a rich girl, would actually go to sell breakfast?" This feeling of incongruity was too strong. "I said that I used to be a salesman, so I don't have stage fright. Why are you still deaf at your old age?" Chung Minjing rolled her eyes at West Mountain Giant Bull. She couldn't bear to see it, so she added, You don't have to panic. I'll protect you when the time comes. No, that's not what I meant. The Shishan giant ox could not help but laugh. It looked at Cheng Minjing and teased. I was too surprised just now. You're a perfected venerable. After all, yet you're reduced to selling those lousy things at the morning market? It was really unexpected. It seemed that the living conditions of the cultivators in the secular world were very difficult. I have to rely on myself. Go to hell, how can you say that? When Cheng Minjing saw that not only was the Shishan giant bull not grateful to her, but it even dared to mock her, she glared at him hatefully and said, This miss was forced to do that. If not for the fact that Xiao Chun and I were being hunted down by that bastard from the Kuei Mountain sect in the outer martial arts world, how could I have done those menial tasks? Who would be willing to suffer if they could have a good life? Ah, you're saying that exalted immortal Xiao went to sell Youtiao with you? The West Mountain giant bull was startled. It suspected that there was something wrong with its ears, so it asked subconsciously, Isn't it that big bad guy who got separated from us after entering the portal? Cheng Minjing snorted and muttered angrily, This guy, he liked to order me around and make me do this and that. I haven't settled the score with him yet. Thinking of the difficult days when she had to wake up early to set up the stall, Cheng Minjing's face showed a look of reminiscence. To be honest, although it felt very hard, the days when she and Xiao Chun bickered and played around in her memory were quite worth recalling. The Shishan giant bull was very surprised at this time. It was not surprised that Xiao Chun would run to sell breakfast with Cheng Minjing, but why would a dignified cultivator be afraid of the head of a small sect in the outer martial arts world? And in its impression, Ma Wuxia from the Kuei Mountain sect should be the subordinate of Xing Gongzi, right? Xing Gongzi clearly had a close relationship with Xiao Chun. Was this Ma Wuxia crazy or brain damaged? Why would he go after the partner of his immediate superior? That. Miss Cheng, I'm asking too much. What happened after that? Did Ma Wuxia find you? The Shishan giant bull was puzzled and asked tentatively. Oh, he found you. Cheng Minjing nodded lightly. Ah, what happened after that? The Shishan giant bull was stunned and quickly asked. Why so many after that? Do you think you can sing? Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes at it and curled her lips disapprovingly. Then he was commanded by Xiao Chun to perform a flying wuxia, and then he died. The Shishan giant bull felt even more strange. Exalted immortal Xiao could have killed Ma Wuxia, but he still wanted to escape. What was wrong with him? Could it be the exalted immortal's quirk? Could it be that Xing Gongzi was dissatisfied with exalted immortal Xiao and Cheng Minjing being together, and was a little jealous, so he sent people to kill him? But why did exalted immortal Xiao run? And when he saw the girls together, there didn't seem to be any estrangement. Then do you know that at that time, exalted immortal Xiao? The Shishan giant bull was about to ask a few more questions in detail, when a rush of footsteps suddenly sounded, interrupting the latter half of his words. The two turned their heads, and saw that the shop assistant who went to report had returned. Behind him was a slightly chubby middle-aged man. Are you two workers hired by the De Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce? The chubby man came in front of the two, and looked at them expressionlessly. When he saw that one was an old man with a white beard, and the other was a delicate girl, he couldn't help but frown. You must be Butler Gao, right? The Shishan giant bull nodded quickly, then grinned and put on a smile that was uglier than crying. He pointed to himself and said, I'm Shishan giant bull, this is Cheng. However, before the Shishan giant bull finished introducing Cheng Minjing, it was directly interrupted by the arrogant Butler Gao. Don't talk nonsense. I don't care what your names are. Hurry up and come with me. There are still a lot of work waiting for you in the backyard. After that, Butler Gao looked at the two of them up and down a few times. His round face was full of disdain. He turned around and left without looking back, muttering and complaining. What's wrong with that broken chamber of commerce? Didn't they ask them to find some coolies to do the work? Why can't they just hire anyone? It seems that I have to have a good talk with them next time. Butler Gao's voice was not loud, but it was just enough for the Shishan giant bull and Cheng Minjing to hear. The Shishan giant bull's expression was a little distorted, But it also knew that it was not the time to talk back. It could only call Chung Minjing and follow behind Butler Gao obediently. As the two walked to the backyard, they were still a little puzzled. Shouldn't I be a salesman here? Could it be that I have other work to do? The two walked to the backyard with doubts in their hearts. When they saw the scene in front of them, they couldn't help but be completely shocked. Chapter 1406. Closest to Chung Minjing and Shishan Giant Cow was a group of ragged workers. They looked very old and weak. At this time, they were busy beside a few large pots that were emitting white smoke. From time to time, they used a special spoon to add materials into the pot, and then worked hard to stir the viscous liquid inside. Beside the large pots, there were piles of various metals. They were very similar to the things that were hung on the wall outside. They should be semi-finished products that had been made. Not far away, there were a few tools for forging metals. Some young men with strong muscles were waving the hammers in their hands and making ha-ha sounds. They were forging the metals into various shapes. After the metals were forged, the young men handed them over to the female workers on the other side for polishing to make the metals look more lustrous and textured. The things that were produced by the hands of the hard-working female workers should be finished products. They looked exactly the same as the ones that Chung Minjing and the others saw in the shop before. Alright, this is where you'll be working. Before Shishan Giant Cow and Chung Minjing recovered from the scene in front of them, Butler Gao gave a concise order. This. Shishan Giant Cow looked at the bad working environment in front of it, and once again had the urge to escape from the scene. What kind of broken place is this? Aren't they looking down on us too much? But just as this thought came to mind, Shishan Giant Bull helplessly suppressed it. He didn't have many spirit crystals left. If he really chose to escape and didn't work here, then if Butler Gao reported him to the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce and blacklisted him, it would be even more difficult for him to work in the future. It couldn't join the horse gang to rob, right? Although it had done a lot of bad things when it was an evil cultivator, it simply burned, killed, and looted. The technical content was too low. Shishan Giant Cow was really not interested. Chung Minjing also had a look of disgust on her face. Originally, she thought that she was just a salesperson or something, standing in the store and selling things. Although it was a little tiring, at least she only needed to move her mouth. She never thought that she, a dignified young lady of a family, would actually be assigned to do hard labor here. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Looking at the female workers with messy hair and shabby clothes, Chung Minjing could not imagine herself assimilating with them. That would be too horrible to look at. What is this? You go refine the raw materials with those old fellows. Butler Gao snorted angrily. He pointed at the Shishan Giant Bull and ordered. Then he turned to look at Chung Minjing. You go and polish the metal with the female worker. Ask the workers here about the specific process. Alright, if there's anything else you don't understand, just ask. Shishan Giant Bull took a deep breath, calmed down, and then asked that. Steward Gao, I would like to ask, how do we calculate our wages? Also, do you provide food and accommodation here? Steward Gao thought for a while, then pointed at the two of them and said, Your salary is 1 crystal a day. Since you are a team of 2, you will only get 30 crystals a month. In addition, we will provide 2 meals a day, and someone will arrange a place for you to stay. It can't be. 1 crystal a day. Chung Minjing's expression was a little dull. Did I hear it wrong? Yes. Steward Gao nodded naturally and added, The first 3 days of work are considered as a probation period. You can't get any crystals. If there's a problem during work, which causes the raw materials to be destroyed or lost, you will also be punished according to the regulations. But it's only 30 crystals a month? Shishan Giant Bull couldn't help but complain and said with a long face. Before coming here, the staff of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce told us that even the lowest level employee can earn 7 or 8 crystals a day. The wages you pay here are a little too low. Isn't it inappropriate? Shishan Giant Bull felt extremely bitter. After all, he was a master of a sect. He had the task of rebuking the inner martial arts world. Not only did he come here to work for someone, but the wages were so low. He was even worse than a beggar. Don't do it if you think it's low. You two are useless. You don't know anything. How dare you bargain with me? When Steward Gao heard their protest, he laughed disdainfully. His nostrils were almost raised to the sky. Then we should also do things according to the regulations, right? The Chamber of Commerce of Immortal Cultivation has a clear regulation. Shishan Giant Bull tried hard to argue, but he was interrupted by Steward Gao before he could finish speaking. Okay, you want to do things according to the rules, right? Let me tell you the rules. Steward Gao lowered his head and stared at Shishan Giant Bull fiercely. He counted with his fingers and said, "You eat my food and live in my place. Do I have to deduct your food and accommodation fees? Also, the prerequisite for working here is that you have to deduct 500 crystals as a deposit. If you can pay it now, I can pay you 5 crystals a day. What do you think?" Cheng Minjing was so angry that she raised her eyebrows and gritted her teeth. She couldn't wait to rush up and slap this damn fatty. However, just when she moved, Shishan Giant Bull immediately stopped in front of her. "We agree. Let's do as you say. 1 crystal is 1 crystal." Before Cheng Minjing lost her temper, Shishan Giant Bull smiled and said to Steward Gao, "If you have something to do, you can do it yourself. We are both very smart, and this work is not difficult. It won't take long for us to learn it." Humph. Do smart people need to work here? Those who are not capable will be useless for a lifetime. They should accept their fate. Steward Gao rolled his eyes at Shishan Giant Bull. He turned around and said a few words to the supervisor. Then he swaggered away. Cheng Minjing first waved her small fist at Steward Gao's chubby back. Then, she pushed Shishan Giant Bull heavily and scolded. "Are you crazy? Look at what kind of a job you have found. How can you make me do this kind of rough work? It's not even as good as selling breakfast. After working hard for a month, I can only earn 30 crystals. What can we do with that?" Shishan Giant Bull staggered after being pushed, but it didn't dare to push Steward Gao back. It comforted her helplessly. "Actually, I think this job is quite good. They also provide food and accommodation, right? We don't have anywhere else to go. Let's just take it as finding a place to rest. Besides, with our abilities, where can we find a better job? I guess other places are like this too. Don't complain." Chapter 1407. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please forgive me." Shishan Giant Cow was so scared that it shivered and apologized repeatedly. It was afraid that it would be kicked out by the supervisor and lose its job. Okay, I'll clean it up now. I promise I won't cause you any trouble." Shishan Giant Cow nodded repeatedly. Then, it carried the burnt cauldron with a bitter face. It took the washing utensils that were handed to it and walked to the sink to wash it obediently. The scene was suddenly in chaos, and coughing sounds came one after another as people choked on the black smoke. Many quick-witted workers hurriedly carried buckets of water over and poured it into the cauldron desperately to extinguish the flames. Only then did they luckily stop the fire from happening. "Hey, Shishan Giant Cow, did your brain get hit by a cannon? Who allowed you to add materials to the cauldron casually? You caused trouble on your first day here. Do you want to quit your job?" While Shishan Giant Cow was secretly rejoicing, there was a sudden roar from not far away. It turned out to be from the supervisor at the scene. It didn't expect that it would cause such serious consequences just by adding some materials casually. Now, Shishan Giant Cow could only rejoice that this scene was not seen by Butler Gao. Otherwise, it would definitely be deducted spirit crystals. Thick black smoke mixed with fire instantly sprayed out from the cauldron. Several nearby workers who didn't have time to dodge were all shrouded in the black smoke. Fortunately, the supervisor did not pursue the matter further. He just shouted, "I want you to clean up the scene before dark. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Cheng Minjing couldn't help but secretly rejoice that she reacted quickly and took a step back before the explosion. So she wasn't injured by the explosion, but her whole body was blackened by the smoke. Cough, 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 it's on fire. Get a bucket over here. Hey, don't mess around. You can't put this material in now. An old man who was busy on the other side saw this scene and quickly ran over to stop it. However, it was too late to stop it. After the Shishan giant yak added the black liquid to the sticky substance in the pot, the temperature gradually rose and became hotter and hotter. The surface of the sticky substance kept bubbling, and the whole pot shook back and forth, looking extremely unstable. Seeing that the situation was not good, the old man who was originally running forward immediately retreated. Cheng Minjing also noticed that something was wrong and quietly took a step back. Only Shishan Nyo didn't feel anything and still stuck its head over to see what had happened to the pot. I can't see where the pot is. Forget it. I'll just splash it in the darkest place. Cough cough. Big sister, do you want to find a place to wash up? Just as Cheng Minjing was worrying, a young female voice suddenly came from behind her. At the same time that the Shishan giant bull stretched its head over, the sticky substance in the cauldron finally could not withstand the high temperature and directly exploded. Good your ass. Which eye of yours thinks that this job is good? The spirit crystals we earn here in a month is not even as much as the people who kill a horse gang. Cheng Minjing shouted angrily. Cheng Minjing turned around and saw that it was a girl who was 1 or 2 years younger than her. She was wearing extremely simple clothes and was blinking her big eyes and looking at her sincerely. Bang! As soon as the voice fell, Shishan giant bull picked up what looked like a custom-made spoon and scooped some unknown black liquid from the wooden bucket on the side. Then it poured it directly into the pot in front of it. Because she was wearing a veil, at this time, her white cheeks were clearly divided into 2 parts. The part above the tip of her nose that was exposed was completely black, and her lips and chin still maintained their original white appearance. Shishan giant bull made a bitter face and didn't say anything. It thought to itself, people who kill horse gangs are all people with strength. You are just a chi refinement stage cultivator. How dare you say this? I'm afraid that before you reach the door of the horse gang's stronghold, you will be shot into a sieve by the soldiers. Shishan giant bull tried to comfort her, but in its heart, it was muttering. This girl looks soft and weak, but I didn't expect her to be so strong. It seems that she is destined to do rough work. If it weren't for the fact that Shishan giant bull's chest was still slightly moving up and down, others would even think that he had been burnt to a crisp by the fire. What's going on? Who did such a stupid thing? Cough cough cough. Cheng Minjing refused to give up. She strode to the side of a big pot that was emitting white smoke, pointed at it, and said angrily, Look at this yourself. What kind of rubbish is this? I guess with your brain, you may not be able to learn it even if you study for 3 days and 3 nights. Just now, you actually patted your chest and agreed so loudly. Why don't you throw yourself in and stir it? What's so difficult about it? Why don't I think so? Shishan giant bull also walked over, looked down at the big pot, and said matter-of-factly, Isn't it just pouring things in and stirring it casually? Look, I'll give you a demonstration. Cough. I realize that you are already so old. How can you still be so reckless? Cheng Minjing, who took a step back, coughed twice, took off her black veil, and took a big breath of fresh air. She didn't forget to complain. Don't touch things that you shouldn't touch. You haven't even started to learn, and you put things in a mess. You almost blew me up. Shishan giant bull, who was closest to the big pot, was in a state of confusion. It had been standing there in its original posture, motionless. Its originally clean clothes were now black, and its hair was completely wet because of the splashed water, and it kept dripping water. Cheng Minjing looked down at her black and sooty appearance. She also wanted to wash her face and change into suitable clothes for work. But looking around, most of the backyard had been occupied as a place for quenching materials. Except for a few broken wooden huts scattered in the distance, there was no other place to freshen up. Cheng Minjing couldn't help but frown gloomily. After a long time, the black smoke gradually began to dissipate, and the true appearance of the accident scene was gradually revealed. Cough cough cough. Shishan giant bull spat out a few mouthfuls of black gas. It mumbled a few words and finally lowered its head. It was so ashamed that it didn't know what to say. Until all the black smoke dissipated, Shishan Giant Bull finally breathed a sigh of relief. The spoon in its hand fell to the ground with a clang, and it didn't feel anything when it hit its toe. Chapter 1408. Yes, but I don't think there's a suitable place to wash up here. I'm worried. Chung Minjing didn't feel any malice from the little girl, so she nodded. My room is closer to here. It's quite convenient to walk there. If you don't mind, why don't I take you to my place to wash up? The little girl smiled brightly and pointed to a place not far away. Then, all right, thank you in advance. Chung Minjing hesitated for a while and nodded. She followed the little girl and walked to a small wooden house nearby. Because it was still in the backyard, Chung Minjing didn't have much vigilance. As they walked, she chatted with the little girl. May I ask, what's your name? Oh, my name is Xiaoyu, the moon of the moon. What's your name, sister? Xiaoyu immediately introduced herself and asked Chung Minjing. My name is Chung Yaoyao. Today I also came here with my grandfather, Shishan Giant Ox. I didn't expect him to make a mistake and cause trouble for everyone. I'm really sorry. Chung Minjing smiled bitterly and shook her head. It's okay. In fact, when I first came here to work, I was also clumsy. At that time, I even got scolded by Butler Gao because I polished a material wrong. That guy is so fierce. Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue cutely and said mischievously. Chung Minjing looked at her for a few times and found that the little girl's eyebrows were still a little immature. She hadn't fully grown, but she could already see that she was quite pretty. Although she wasn't the kind that could cause the downfall of a city, she still belonged to the type that came from a humble family. When she grew up, she would definitely be a beauty. However, this little girl's body seemed very thin, and her spine was slightly curved. Although her hands were slender, her skin was quite rough. At first glance, it was obvious that she had worked a lot and didn't have enough nutrition. That was why she developed so late. Xiaoyu, how long have you been working here? Chung Minjing sized him up and asked curiously. You don't look very old. Why are you doing this kind of rough work? According to the laws of the secular world, Xiaoya could be regarded as underage child labor. If she was discovered, she would definitely be fined. It's a long story. Those who choose to do this kind of hard labor, which one of them isn't from a poor family? Hearing Chung Minjing's question, Xiaoya's eyes turned red as if she had recalled her sad past. However, she muttered to herself, but I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. I will find a way to leave one day, no matter what price I have to pay. Xiaoya's voice was too soft for Chung Minjing to hear clearly. She couldn't help asking, what did you just say? It's nothing. Xiaoya forced a smile at Chung Minjing, and then pushed open a door in front of her. This is it. Go in and change your clothes. I'll go get some water for you to wash. Thank you, Xiaoya. Chung Minjing couldn't stand her dirty appearance, so she didn't refuse. She thanked her and walked in. After entering the room, Chung Minjing looked at the surrounding environment and found that the room looked relatively dilapidated. The furniture inside was extremely simple. Except for a bed, a table, daily necessities, and a mirror, there was nothing else. No wonder Xiaoya was so at ease to let strangers in. Although it looked very dilapidated, there was no dust in the entire room. It looked relatively clean. The cleanest thing was the mirror. It seemed that even though Xiaoya did such hard work every day, she still maintained the characteristics of a girl. She loved cleanliness and liked to look in the mirror and feel sorry for herself. With a slight sigh, Chung Minjing put aside the thoughts in her mind and took off her dirty clothes. Then, she opened her luggage and chose a relatively simple dress to wear. After wearing it, Chung Minjing looked at her face in front of the mirror. She found that her nose, eyelids, and forehead were all dark stains, but her lips and chin were the same as before. It was like a Zorro wearing a mask. Not long after, someone knocked on the door gently. After waiting for Chung Minjing to respond, the door was opened again. Xiaoya entered the door with a basin of water and placed it on the table. Then, she looked at Chung Minjing with a smile and said, Sister Yaoyao, hurry up and wash it. We have to get things done quickly and go back to work. Otherwise, the supervisor will scold us again. And okay. Chung Minjing nodded and immediately walked over. She bent down and quickly washed the stains on her face. Fortunately, the black dust was originally stuck to her face, so it was easier to wash. So after a little rubbing, it fell off, and the clear water in the basin suddenly turned black. While waiting for Chung Minjing to finish washing her face, Xiaoya picked up the dirty clothes on the side and put them in a large basin in the corner. It seemed to be used for washing clothes. Standing up, Xiaoya turned around and walked back. Her eyes inadvertently swept across Chung Minjing's luggage and couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow! Sister Yaoyao, your clothes are so beautiful." Xiaoya felt that the clothes in the luggage seemed to have magic, attracting her step by step. She didn't forget to say enviously, "Sister Yaoyao, where did you buy your clothes? I've never seen such beautiful clothes in any of the clothing stores in our town. Even the most expensive treasures can't compare to them. You must have been a rich lady in the past, right?" Walking to the front of the luggage, Xiaoya looked down at the exquisite and beautiful clothes. She didn't dare to touch them, and her pupils were shining with envy. "It's nothing. If you like it, I can give you one." At this time, Chung Minjing had already wiped her face clean. She picked up a high-end custom-made dress, bought in the secular world, and stuffed it into Xiaoya's hands. In fact, after entering the inner Wulin, Chung Minjing rarely wore the clothes of the secular world. She still felt that ancient robes were more comfortable, and they looked quite sage-like. The most important thing was that they could cover her small chest, so she hadn't touched those clothes of the secular world for a long time. Really, Xiaoya looked at the clothes in her hands with surprise and joy. Suddenly she came to her senses, and quickly handed the clothes back. "No, Sister Yaoyao, these clothes are too expensive. I can't accept them." Although she said so, Xiaoya's eyes were still fixed on the clothes in her hands, as if it was good to look at them a few more times. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.